Alrighty, we got the final match of the Dominion World Cup. This one between Tracer on the US team and Kazumaru on Japan's team, joined by Fabi.
Hello and welcome. Nice to be joined by you. And this looks like quite the doozy for a kingdom right away with Trail and Apprentice. Yep.
Yeah, Trail looks quite good here. You can trash it with Apprentice for a bunch of draw. You could discard it with Witch's Hut, which both gives out a curse and turns Witch's Hut into a village because you get two actions back from playing both trails. You could forge two trails into provinces. You could discard it with
Yeah.
Hamlet just for an extra village or draw. Poacher could discard it later in the game. Jack of all trades, if you get real lucky, could discard your trail. Lots of synergies.
Yeah, and Abundant plus Buy also. And like Traveling Fair, Imperial Envoy, Hamlet later on. Although, yeah, I think you might want to do the Forge stuff over a proper other payload, right?
Yeah, the
There's
trouble
not a
is,
lot of
compare like if Fortress were in the kingdom, you'd just get like two fortresses, and then that would solve all your problems because then you could apprentice the fortress over and over, forge two fortresses into provinces as many times as you want, and so on. With Trail, each one is like a one-time use per turn because like you can apprentice the trail and then play it, and then you don't lose the trail, but it does go into play. And so you need a
true,
bunch of
yeah.
trails, and then there's so many things competing for uh trails value. So probably, Forge on Trails looks great, but if you're also apprenticing trails and or also discarding them with Witch's Hut, then you're going to run out of trails at some point. So you might also want to have a plan to have other payload. I think
Jack,
Jack
Jack is
Jack
a
of all
in
trades,
here.
yeah, will put a bunch of silvers in your deck. It seems a lot easier to draw cards here than it is to make a bunch of money. There's Apprentice and Envoy and Den of Sin, tons and tons of draw. And so it might be the case that uh, the payload ends up mostly being the silvers off of Jack, and then the trails end up mostly being used for draw. But if you have enough trails, then Forge on Trail looks good late in the game for sure.
Yeah, what is the first 5 you get here? Is it an apprentice to try to get rid of coppers, or is it straight up Den of Sin, Witch's Hut?
I'm not
Probably
sure.
depends on the time you hit 5 first.
Yeah, like Dynastin I would describe as being a very situational buy. Like, do I need to draw next turn specifically for whatever reason? You buy Dynastin. Yeah, Iris is probably rather the attack of Witch's Hut doesn't matter all too much. Um,
Nonetheless, it's, I think, a bit easier to line up with your trails and apprentice, right?
yeah, like Witch's Hut is a card you love to find in your starting hand. Because even if you don't find a trail in your starting hand, Witch's Hut has 4 more chances to draw into one. Whereas, like, an Apprentice is also a good card to find your starting hand, but you really want to line it up with a trail for it to get its full value. Apprentice trashing a trail is also a village, for what it's worth, because Apprentice gives one action, and then your trail on its own is a cantrip. But if you're trashing trail and playing it as a result of the trash, rather than spending an action to play it, you're getting that +1 action for free, rather than getting +1 action back.
Yeah. Interesting that they opted for the poacher there over. I mean, it also gets you to 5, I guess, and even together here. And
That was quite a fortunate draw for Tracer, hitting 7 turn 3. That's not what you'd expect on average from Poacher. I'd say Poacher is a little bit better hitting 5 than Jack of all trades is, if I had to guess. So if you're not trying to get to the 5s ASAP, there's a case for Poacher. I probably would open Jack of all trades on account of it's good at getting to 5, but it's also trashing estates and adding silvers, which is both things that you want to happen. So you could click Gather here, which looks good. You could also uh, yeah, I think Gather looks the best. The other option would be like buying Traveling Fair and top decking a 5 cost card, because your next hand is going to be terrible with all your estates down
yeah,
there. But Gather
yeah,
could
but for that,
also,
you can also just gain a Den of Sin, right, to
yeah,
trigger
so
that shuffle.
So if you gain a trail on the 4 cost card for gather, you draw 1 card, and then you gain Den of Sin on the 5 cost card for gather, that'll draw you 2 more cards, and then you're getting through the 6 cards and back around to the good stuff in your deck.
I like the suggestion by Mahorath. Just hoping for war or whatever, and going for Cursed Village.
Yeah,
To
unironically, I've seen
yeah,
situations where you hit 5 and your next hand's a dud, and you buy Cursed Village, intentionally trying to hex yourself just to somehow undo the dud. So for example, War, the one you were mentioning, would clear out the entire deck because it would draw through every single card looking for a 3 or 4 cost card, which in this case didn't exist in Tracer's deck. Or where do they go? I've lost the hexes. Bad Omens would pitch the deck and only leave 2 coppers on top instead of 6 bad cards. There's a few others that would make a minor difference. Um,
yeah.
Locust would get 1 card off
Although
the top.
apart, right, yeah, I guess, and in the worst case, you added copper on top of your deck, which is also
Yeah.
not great. Now, I think their Den of Sin was the much more educated choice for sure, but it was a fun suggestion.
Racers hit 4. Given the way their deck is
And
going, I expect they're not going to add a jack at all, and we'll probably just put a Forge in the deck and use that to trash all the stuff soon.
yeah, yeah, I think, and also that's a good reason to skip Apprentice early on-ish, just because, I mean, Apprentice later on is going to be draw with Trails and Village, but it's not to thin your coppers any better than a good, well-timed Forge is, and that may be fueled by some Den of Sin draw.
So Tracer's got, I believe, a 50-50 to hit 7 here. If I'm not mistaken, those bottom 2 cards are a Poacher and a Copper.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think on this $7 hand, Forge starts to look pretty reasonable. And you'd, I think, rather not find it on your next turn. So that on the following turn, you could buy Den of Sin and then have Forge in a bigger hand on, what would that be? Turn 7.
No, I think the bottom card is a second silver, no?
Oh, am I wrong?
So Poacher and Silver.
Oh, so then we're
Yeah,
100% to hit 7. That's even better.
just checked that they didn't see the silver, one of the 2 silvers last turn.
Kazu buying a Den of Sin, deliberating on whether to play it for some reason. I would describe Kazumaru as, I think, being the most contemplative of the top players. He's known
I
to take his
haven't.
time.
Interesting. Yeah. By the way, you are recording, right? Then I don't need to record in principle.
Yeah, I got a recording going.
Okay, then I'll stop mine, I guess. No need for the double. Also, it's nicer on my computer's resources. It's kind of running the Discord and the recording.
Did see the Forge from Tracer. Yeah, I think
It would
Tracer's
be
got to
great.
be.
Sorry,
Okay.
go
I
ahead.
was going to say Tracer's got to be ahead here, I think, given the fortunate early game draws, despite being player 2.
Yeah, yeah. I have the same feeling, and it would be great for them to hit either 5 here or yeah, find the Den of Sin again to line up a good Forge Trash.
Yeah. I think that's what you're hoping for is Tracer either draw the original den or hit enough money to buy a new den so that you got a big hand size. Worst case scenario, be drawing like Copper Estate off the top. Best case scenario, be drawing Silver and a den and then getting 2 dens down. Breshka saying don't trigger the shuffle as Kazumaru. Seems like Kazumaru agrees. 8 is probably not
Yeah, they
meaningfully
have a
better than
silver.
7.
Yeah, and they go for the Witch's Hut. Okay.
Expected Denizen here
Just
from
then.
Tracer? Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps as well for Kazu.
Azu agrees. In general, a good time to buy Din is when you're right at the top of your shuffle, because the Din has immediate value on that next hand, whereas any other card you're buying, you're not seeing for 2 turns. Especially with something like Traveling Fair in the Kingdom or Gather, stuff that encourages hitting a bigger number immediately, and then that has time to pay off for you. Like a lovely number to hit here would be 9, which Kazumaru might manage to. That's a fortunate trail reveal. This Jack would otherwise not be drawing any cards because they already had a 5-card hand. So pitch the trail,
And
and trail will draw a 9.
they
I think Kazumaru could
nice.
still be in this. This 9 is an important number for Traveling Fair plus Gather. Means you could buy Gather and then top deck whatever you want.
They have the Witch's Hut down there, so top
Yeah,
decking a trail doesn't look too bad.
yeah. I'd love to put a trail on top, and the you can play the trail when you gain it. That's optional, and so Kazumaru in this case should just decline to play the trail and leave it on top. So yeah, silver probably not top decking that. Do top deck a trail, and you got a Witch's Hut on top to play it with, and then not sure what the other 5 cost gain is here. Could be
Probably just a den
Apprentice.
still. Like you want to hit. Do you want to get through the deck as much as possible, especially if you want to like if they go for gather here, they delay the forge one more turn at least. So
I was
I
thinking
like
make
that.
either Apprentice or Imperial Envoy. They go for a second Witch's Hut.
Or another witch's hut is also fine.
Okay. So how are you doing this? You don't really want to province this early, I don't think. I was expecting Tracer to probably forge the trail, all the coppers in one estate into a gold. Looks like they're playing the trail, and it does work out. You could forge 4 coppers, silver, and one estate into a 5, or everything into a second forge.
Or another trail even, right? And play that.
Yeah, you could trash 2 estates and all the coppers into a trail, play it, and then you'll draw. Oh, interesting. Tracer leaves a few coppers around, seemingly trying to hit 5 there, or maybe 7.
Or even hoping to hit 7, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they were shooting for another 7 cost buy.
Is it time for them to add Witch's Hut?
Could be. I think I liked just forging all of it into a second forge, at least for the moment. The function of 2 forges could be you forge a trail into a trail, and then it's like a trail gainer. Uh, and then once the trails are empty, you can start using forge to gain provinces. This line is fine. Didn't pay off here, but in the average case, you're hitting 7, and 7's really good here. Just one more din, okay?
I mean, seeing this hand,
Yeah,
I'm happy to draw 4 cards here, but yeah, let's see. The trail split is 3 for Kazu, right? At this point.
find out. Yes.
But they also have a lot more silvers in their deck. And I think in general a much thicker deck at this point, so they really want to hammer in that forge now, but they even get to top deck it. And
I'm expecting a forge this turn.
exactly? Forge and then top deck Witch's Hut, or
That's my first inclination is top deck a Witch's Hut, buy a Forge. Probably don't top deck the Forge because you want to maximize the chance that Witch's Hut finds the trails. Other
yeah,
options would be Forge and buy another Den of Sin. Um, it could be
I
Den of
think
Sin plus Gather here
has,
and delay the Forge one more
yeah,
turn.
Kazu has 2 coppers, another Den of Sin, and silver doesn't sound outlandish to me, although I'm not sure.
Yeah, so like if you just do Forge and Witch's Hut, you're gonna see those 5 cards plus your Witch's Hut plus one more card. Then you play the Witch's Hut. You get 5 chances to draw one of the 3 trails out of all these cards plus whatever else you gain, like the Forge. Those odds are pretty good, but not guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that this is what they're also thinking about right now. But I don't think that you want to delay the Forge any longer. It's just that the deck is super thick at this point, and you would like to get rid of those coppers as soon as possible.
Yeah, the Forge is good for trashing the coppers. It's also going to be good payload later in the game.
Yeah.
We'll see what
Oh, they
Kazu
go for
does.
Gather.
So
They disagree, apparently.
they are, yeah. I think this is a
Basically.
reasonable line if you're not wanting to gamble on lining it up. This is the line that is more likely to guarantee your next turn kicks off. And then like if
Yeah.
you're top decking this much stuff, you're gonna draw, and then you can hopefully set up the next turn. And I expect Kazu to gain a Forge soon enough.
And the Apprentice is nice to take care of the silvers, of maybe the Jack at this point. And
I think I would keep the silvers around. Wahoo says, I'm assuming that's a sad draw for Tracer. Yeah, relatively speaking, Tracer does not find the Forge and still has a bunch of junk left to forge. So probably not what they were hoping for. Top deck an Apprentice and a Trail. Is that better than a Witch's Hut and a Trail? I think like Tracer is not low on terminal space. I think the only terminal action in Tracer's deck is the Forge. So maybe you could have top decked a Trail and a Witch's Hut. Apprentice is also
I
good.
think I agree. Yeah. And I guess that's what we're seeing with Kazu's deck is that that's one way to deal with all of this junk, just sift past it with all of those witches' huts.
So comparing the upsides, Apprentice trashing one Trail is on net drawing you 3 cards because you draw 5 cards between the Apprentice and the Trail, and you had to play
Yeah.
2 cards from your hand. And a Witch's Hut discarding 2 trails is also on net drawing you 3 cards because it draws you 6 cards, but it took 3 cards to do that. So it's the same total amount of draw. Downsides of the Witch's Hut are it's
No,
using up one more trail.
wait. If you discard the 2 trails that you drew,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that? Yeah. No. Sorry, I got confused by my.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
it's
don't
the
know
same
what.
total amount of draw either way. The Witch's Hut uses up one more trail, which in this kingdom is kind of a prized commodity because you have a lot of stuff you can do with the trails. But it also gives out a curse, and it's a little bit more reliable in that the Witch's Hut draws first, and then you discard the trails, so it's easier to line up with the trails. The Apprentice is a village, even if you only find the one trail, which is nice. So I think they're fairly close in value. The curse is not the biggest deal, especially once your opponent has a Forge in the deck, but it is something.
Yeah, and look at that drawn deck. Look at all his money.
Yeah, we'll see if Kazu wants free silvers here. I think I do want silvers just because draw is easy to come by, and so silver is money. But
Yeah. As Kazu, you now finish the trails, right? You go
hmm,
grab all of them there.
well, probably comes at the expense of gaining a forge. How much are we looking at? 1422 money. Um, so probably click traveling fair twice, and then you're down to 18, and then 18 could be double or a gather, forge, and a trail, and then you got six of the trails. Tracer gets four.
Yeah, I guess again with top decking Witch's Hut Trail, you are certainly set up for the next turn. Then
Yeah, I haven't considered the other lines, but just off the bat, if you were to buy Traveling Fair Forge, don't top deck the Forge. Do top deck two trails and a Witch's Hut or an Apprentice, and then you have a Denizen down as well. That is surely kicking off, and then at the end of the turn, you can forge a ton of coppers and whatever else
yeah,
into good stuff.
yeah, I like Kazu's position at this point. Initially, it really felt like Tracer
Yeah, I
was
do think Tracer had the
ahead
early
during.
lead.
Yeah,
Shanahan's to just double gather trail. I think
no,
that's also reasonable. I still quite like the Forge, but two gathers is putting all the trails in your deck, which is nice. Trail's an important card in this kingdom. Uh, the one downside is you can't really gain and play very much. Like you could play a jack and gain a silver and then draw that. Whereas if you have a trail on the deck and then you're overdrawing, which I think Kazu will next turn, then you could do stuff like trash a trail and a silver into a second forge, draw that forge, play it, and then get like two or three forge plays in the same turn.
yeah,
But I
that
wouldn't be too
sounds.
surprised, I mean, especially given that Kazu did not go for the forge early in the opportunity last turn. Maybe they'll just gather again. We'll find out.
The only thing this kingdom is missing would be a more appealing 3-cost card than silver, although
Yeah.
silver is quite fine here.
Yeah, even
But
if you didn't want the
it's
silver,
already.
the $3 gain is not optional on gather, and silver is the only one, so you'd be forced to gain it. Maho says putting off Forge feels like playing with fire. Yeah, possibly so. Like many remodel esque cards, Forge, uh, I'd say shortens the game clock a bit because once you have a province lead, you can start forging provinces into provinces to lower that pile quickly. So imagine you've got the better deck, but then your opponent has two or three forges early. They take like two provinces. And then now, if you take any provinces, they're in the range of doing like forge two provinces and then buy two more provinces, and then the game's over.
Yeah, and they seem to think that gather is worth more than forge here.
Yeah.
Emptying the trails, so Tracer only has 3 of those.
Yeah, I mean, you could have won the trail split either way, but 7-3 is, I think, more of an annoyance for Tracer than a benefit for Kazumaru at that point. The fourth trail has probably a more marginal value than the seventh one. But that's something. And I mean, this deck is still going to make a lot of money. It's going to have even more draw in it. It's going to be a little bit lacking in payload, but they got plenty of silvers. I think, yeah, the one thing that is worrisome about Kazumaru's deck is, I'd say, that lack of in-game potential for closing out the game. With no forges in the deck, it's not as easy to threaten to take a bunch of provinces. Uh-oh. Does Tracer just not have draw cards? Or is this another very unfortunate draw?
No, I think they have relied heavily on Den of Sins.
Mm.
So
There's a Witch's Hut in there, isn't there? Or did I make... No, they got the Apprentice, right? Yeah. So maybe this is a predictable result? Maybe this all goes back to that turn where Tracer trashed fewer coppers than they could have to buy the gather? I don't know. Certainly at this point, I think it's looking pretty bad for Tracer. This is
yeah,
not
for sure.
as much as you want your turn to be doing.
Like even just top decking, I don't know, Hamlet, Witch's Hut for Kazu should be able to kick them off in future turns, and they have so many Witch's Huts, and like they have all 5 of them, right?
Apparently
They
so.
might even be able to win here.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
can
I
give
don't
out.
think winning off the charts with the cursing and trail being empty, traveling fair. Maybe it's going to be a bit too expensive to empty the dens. You need 28 for that, given
So
that they don't have natural plus buy.
yeah, there'll be one curse left. So what's the cheapest pile out? Probably 30 money for 4 dens and a curse.
Yeah,
Or yeah, that's right. Oh wait, no, you're right about 28 because 4 traveling fairs will get you 5 buys, and then you can buy 4 dens and a curse.
yeah, yeah. You have your natural buy.
Um, so 28 would do it, and I don't think there's a cheaper pile. The states normally cost 16, but they're a lot more expensive when your buy is traveling fair. That would be like 32.
Last turn they had 22 money. They added a silver. Oh no, they added 2 silvers. And they could play the jack here to add another one, but that's, I guess, 28.
They gathered twice. Yeah, I think that math works out. So 22, the 2 silvers they gained off of the gathers, a silver that they could gain off the jack and play it. Um,
Do they have enough action cards to discard 2 Witches' Huts?
yeah, that's a good question because in order for that pilot to work, they do have to discard 2 actions again with this witch's hut, which might just not work out because they only have exactly enough money to do 4 dens and 1 curse. So all these witches huts need to give out curses. It seems they're currently deliberating on whether to play that other trail. One, two, three. That will be the last trail. So yeah, maybe this doesn't work out because you could play the witch's hut and discard apprentice and jack of all trades, and that would give it the last curse. But then your apprentice and jack are in the discard, and you need those to be in your hand.
Mm.
I wonder if maybe
Or
with the
do
power.
you
Go ahead.
sorry? If maybe you do, like, if you're going for that line, you do apprentice the Den of Sin here. But now, no, I think, yeah, since you need to give out this curse, the last 2 cards are silvers. That's 18, 25 money in hand, and that's not enough.
So I'm thinking
Like, even if you draw a silver here.
possibly if we go back a few plays to an earlier witch's hut, and I don't know if anyone would have noticed this early. There might have been a winning line that involved witch's hut discarding the apprentice and the jack sooner, giving out a curse that way, which doesn't use up any trails. Then your later witch's huts discard the trails, draw back into the jack and the silver, and then
Yeah.
if you can end up with the apprentice and the jack in your hand, even if you've got more silvers down there, well now you can do the play jack, gain a silver, apprentice this den of sin for 5 draw. And I think that would have been a win. So I think if you this like third to last witch's hut or any of the first three, I think needed to discard apprentice and jack and then draw back into them. The problem is that the last one discards the apprentice and the jack. They're in the discard when you don't want them to be, which I
Yeah.
think that'd be quite hard to see. And Kazu, unfortunately, did not quite
Yeah.
see it in time. They should still be in a
One,
perfectly
one
fine
money
spot.
off.
Yeah. So what are you doing here? Is Kazu probably just take like a province just in case? Because piles are low-ish, although Tracer's deck is realistically probably not threatening to end the game next turn. And then top deck
Or
something
maybe
nice or
top
buy a
deck.
den.
Yeah.
Like double Province Den would probably win next turn. There's no way Tracer's beating that, and you've lowered the Den pile, so it's easier for you to pile out next turn. I suppose there's some chance that all 9 of your top 9 cards could be bad, but that seems unlikely. Other options could
I like
be,
top decking 9 Apprentice.
yeah, if you
Top
top deck
decking
an
Province
Apprentice,
Apprentice.
yeah, just putting one
Mm,
Apprentice on top would be also pretty much guaranteed. Go off to the turn.
yeah. Yeah, it seems like the Japanese have also seen the win. $1 short.
Mhm.
One money short. That, yeah.
Yeah, the folks in the chat are talking about trashing a province with Apprentice, which I think would make total sense. Like you buy one province so that you've got a point fleet on Tracer's turn. Again, I don't even think that's necessary. I don't think Tracer is overcoming the negative 7 points deficit and piling out with their deck. Um, but better safe than sorry. And then you put an apprentice on top, and
We
then
saw it
when it,
yesterday.
yeah, yeah. um, yesterday, Team USA managed to overcome the odds and lose in a winning position, which unfortunately has led to Japan having a 1 game lead. It was 3-3, 3-3, and then Yuri Kamame squeaked out a win in a dead loss game to go up 4-2. So a tie in this match would result in Japan winning.
Yeah, I rewatched the third game, so I rewatched all of the games that I missed yesterday,
Mhm.
and that Marchland Open is so legendary. And that was
I think
really
I think I
cool.
think Marshland was game 4, or am I wrong?
Might have been, yeah, I might be incorrect here, but yeah, the one where I missed the start was quite something that they pulled off. That
Yes. For anyone who didn't catch the previous match, Minion Pawn won opening Marchland on turn 2, which is not something you see every day. Yeah, go find. I think it was game 4. Um, it was
yeah, I
a
think you're
very
correct.
interesting kingdom. Both players had some curious decisions that no one was anticipating.
Oh, he's going for the apprentice top deck line with province. Fun.
Yep. Yeah, I think Apprentice is the safest card to put on top here. If you trash a province, you're looking at what's that, a 15 card starting hand. Maybe your top 15 cards are all silvers and coppers. Hmm. And yeah, so Tracer's now in a position of, well, lost. I don't know a better way to put that. Don't think they can
Yeah,
win this turn, and I don't think they're getting another turn after this one.
and they're also not going to be able to. Maybe they're going to be able to trash out some of the curses, but by far not all of them. And overcoming that points lead in order to prolong the game also seems rather impossible in their position.
Yeah, we were saying in theory the curses shouldn't matter all that much, but as it turns out, they are hurting Tracer. I would think of the cursing attack in a deck that can deal with it, with at least for most cards like Forge and such, is it's still like a -1 card attack, like a stackable relic, because even if they can trash the curses the first time they come in, they have to spend one extra draw next turn drawing that curse in order to trash it. Bud Fox asks, couldn't Kazu end it with 23 with TF, 4x Den of Sin, and Curse? Yeah, they needed to hit 28 and they only had 27. You would need to buy Traveling Fair 4 times to have 5 buys for 4 dens and a curse. I do think there was a line that got Kazumaru to 28 because they didn't draw all of their treasure, but it required, I think, a somewhat unintuitive play early in the turn that they missed out on.
Yeah, like if maybe also, although no, they need to discard the apprentice at least once. Yeah, but drawing back to the apprentice earlier on would have been key, and then probably trashing the Den of Sin.
Maho says, I can't understand that line, Jane. I'm not seeing where the extra draw comes from. The line I was contemplating was discarding Apprentice and Jack earlier on like one of the first three Witches' Huts, and then discarding the trails later. The problem that they ran into isn't not having enough total draw, I don't think. It's that the lines that they needed to take at the end of the turn mean they have to discard the Apprentice and the Jack to give out the curse. Because all five Witches' Huts had to give out curses in order for them to have enough money to pile the one remaining curse in Fortunes of Sin. And if they ran out of trails, and so they wanted that last Witch's Hut to give out a curse, they had to discard either the Apprentice or the Jack. And if you discard the Jack, you can't gain a silver before playing your Apprentice. If you discard the Apprentice, then you don't have enough draw. And so what I was suggesting was discard the Apprentice and the Jack earlier, then you have more trails left for the last Witch's Huts. Then you draw back around into the Apprentice and Jack, discard trails, and then you end up with those in hand, and then the extra draw is coming from Apprentice trashing a den. I could be wrong. That was what it seemed like to me. But I do believe they trigger a shuffle earlier on. Maybe somebody can
And
go
yeah,
test
okay,
it
but
out.
the reformation is warranted here. And I mean, watching your opponent draw their deck to 30 something money.
All right, game two.
And we got a new queen. And that one immediately has Swap Experiment and Daimyo. And Price Broker as a powerful thinning, although not great estate thinning.
Where are the gains?
Way of the Otter.
We're
No
looking at all
plus
the fun
buy.
stuff, and then you realize none of it's going to matter
Yeah.
because you could get a huge engine going here. It's a little bit. Actually, no, yeah, it seems straightforward even. There's nifty things you can be doing, and you're not rewarded for doing most of it because the maximum your deck can possibly do, I think, is just buy a single province per turn, unless I'm missing something.
Indeed, no. Which means immediately you just opt for the miser.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
goes without saying.
No, Experiment looks great here. You can otter it early on, and if you draw a card dead, you can farm hands and get into swap Rice Broker stuff.
Yeah, so in theory, you can build a deck that is buying a province per turn while also improving your deck quality. Under normal circumstances, swap isn't really improving your deck, it's just turning one action card into another. But I think as you were pointing out, and other folks in the chat also are, swap experiment is like net action gain. So you have two swaps. You swap one card into an experiment, you gain, a rabble or a farmhands or whatever. Then you also gained an extra experiment. Then you swap the second experiment into something else, and then you can swap an action back into experiment, gain a free experiment, and so on. And so if you're swapping stuff back and forth into experiments, you're net increasing the number of actions in your deck. And so ideally, you'd like to build a deck that has some number of swaps in it, and then is also hitting 8, and then you can start scoring, and then your deck is also consistently improving, and so you're not going to expect a dud. The downside, of course, is if you build a deck that is, fully running, and then your opponent buys province one turn sooner, there's not really a comeback mechanism here.
Yeah.
Like, you really, really don't want to lose the province split 3-5 in this kingdom. You kind of got to start buying provinces
How
at the
often
same time.
Yeah. How often do you click Daimyo? As often as you can?
It's a good question. Daimyo is quite a strong card. And it's a card you can't gain naturally off of swap. I think the answer is I would like to get a swap into my deck first, so that even if I'm in
Yeah.
debt, I have a way to gain the other actions that I need, and then I start spending buys on daimyos for a bit. Playing Experiment is Way of the Otter. You draw two cards either way, and if you didn't need the +1 action, playing its Way of the Otter means it won't return to its pile, because that's an instruction which you're not following if you're playing it using the Way effect.
Yeah, lemon spawn brings up that in a well-oiled engine, whatever, against a deck that greens earlier, you will have the option of going for some rebels,
Yeah.
and so certainly you want to build here. That's swap for Tracer.
I would expect to swap. Tracer agrees.
Yeah,
Kazu adds a farm hands on the previous turn. I assume the motivation there is if you play farm hands, then you can afford to play, your experiments as way of the otter because you have gotten extra action, and then you're keeping the experiments around. Unfortunately for Kazu, they keep hitting 4, which is not the important number here. You really don't want to add silvers if you can avoid it, because silver's not a particularly good card. Maybe you do need to buy a single silver to get up to 5. Once your Rice Broker starts trashing the coppers, your deck is not very good at hitting 5 anymore.
yeah. I guess they could draw into a hand that is capable of that, but I guess they're going for a Cabin Boy, but that seems a bit slow to hit 5.
Yeah. You might just see Kazu potentially play the Rice Broker using Way of the Otter, so as to avoid trashing additional coppers if they haven't hit 5 yet. Tracer
Yeah.
seems to be in the lead to me. I think Ball for 4 experiments, yeah, looks better than Daimyo at the moment. They got a bunch of swaps and otherwise didn't have targets for them.
Do you trash an experiment here as Tracer to kick off the turn to
Hmm.
really get the stuff going?
I wasn't thinking about that, but that could be a good idea.
Although just trashing a copper and playing the experiment normally is 4 cards, and you trash a copper.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
you're
that much better.
you're drawing 1 card of the cost of trashing 1 less copper. Unclear.
Last 2 cards for Kazu are Copper Estate, so even playing the Rice Broker as Otter won't yield.
Yeah, I think Kazu is I hate being in this position where like you took the slightly greedy line that was probably going to hit 5 but not guaranteed, and then you didn't hit 5,
Yeah.
and now your deck is in a position where it has no real ability to hit 5 in a kingdom where that's a crucial number at least for the first time. And once you've got a swap in your deck, then you can spin your sub 5 buys on experiments and swap them into whatever you need. But Kazu just never got to 5 for that first time and is now in some trouble. Fortunately for
Yeah.
Tracer, I believe they didn't find their second swap. There are 2 down there, aren't there? Yeah, I think there's one more with bottom decked alongside
And the
an
Cabin Boy.
experiment.
Sorry.
I was guessing what that last card is. It's an experiment, right? They trashed one, swapped one, and have one in hand. Yeah, I think it's a swap and an experiment on the bottom. So, yeah, drawing with this experiment does absolutely nothing. You just. Oh, actually, it doesn't do absolutely nothing. I was thinking you could otter it, and ottering it does absolutely nothing. You could play the experiment, swap the experiment into something, and get an immediate play of an action card. Um,
Ottering would mean though that you see cards that you could set aside with the farm hands.
Maho is saying there's a
But
copper down there. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Tracer or T trashes a copper. They've only trashed 1 copper. Okay, why did I think there were 4 experiments? Let me go back and count.
they've also set aside 1 copper right now. So
Yes, I'm right. That's where that other copper is. Um, so it is swap experiment. The missing coppers and set aside land from the farm hands. Mm. Ooh, interesting. So what are you going to do with this? I was
you want
thinking,
to hit 5 for ball for experiments again.
yeah, I guess this makes sense. If you're playing on balling experiments, you just spent 1 extra experiment to get 2 extra experiments, plus you got an extra swap play, so that seems worth it. Um, I was thinking you're going to buy Daimyo and just leave those on top, which also would be pretty good.
Rough times for Kazu. Trashing that experiment just to finally hit 5.
Uh, I'm surprised that Tracer swapped or played that experiment normally rather than ottering it. I guess they were worried about drawing into the rabble and having to draw dead. An unfortunate draw here. This is not what Tracer wanted to see. These bottom nine
Yeah,
cards
all
are
of the
chock full of good stuff.
yeah,
I think Tracer's still well in the lead here.
yeah, for sure. Like even just having the upper hand on the experiments,
Yep.
like keeping them in your deck is worth a lot, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a risk. Is if you're not careful, what could happen is your opponent just gets into a position where they're regaining all the experiments each turn and leaving them in their deck, and then they swap them out into whatever they really want, gain them again, and then if there's just no experiments in the pile on your turn, you can't do any of the interesting stuff with swap.
Yeah, what do you play for here as Kazu? Apparently the
Oh,
status of
yeah,
ouch.
Kazu is just not hitting five, even with a cabin boy. I'd play the Baker here, probably. Don't you have another swap down there? Yeah, there it is.
They need more bakers, no? Now that they've trashed some of their coppers. How many do they have left? Are they going to be able to hit ball again with what they have in their deck? Haven't paid too much attention. There are two.
I'm guessing one of these experiments is going to become a swap, and that's going to swap the other one into maybe a Baker. Yeah, maybe we're just not seeing the Daimyo buy because Daimyo is
Yeah, I was
naturally a
all
card
in
you just
for.
yeah naturally a card you click a
Sorry.
bunch, but ball for experiments on five it does just look very good whenever you've got enough swaps in your deck to make use of that.
Yeah. Another swap, and then you swap experiment into Baker if you don't find a copper.
Yeah, I think you're guaranteed to draw the last copper, right? Because the swap will draw one, and then the Baker will draw
Yeah.
one. Are those bottom two cards both copper? I think it's two coppers on bottom. They don't have anything set aside. You've only trashed two coppers. So you could also potentially consider getting another rabble attack in if you'd rather that. Turning the
Maybe they're
experiment.
also thinking about I'm just gaining an experiment at this point from that farm hands to really secure that experiment pile, but no, they've opted for another swap.
Yeah, so I think you could take a Baker and bank up an extra coffer. You could take a rabble and get in an extra attack. Either way, you're hitting five and presumably taking a bunch more experiments. Also, FH and FH. That is true. Something you
Yeah,
could consider would be swapping into farm hands, which would then be in hand and consider itself a side, which would give you a lot of actions to work with at the start of next turn. What did they end up doing? They swapped into a rice broker
they
and
just
trashed an estate. Okay. The
I
estates
mean,
are,
having some estate left at the end of the game doesn't sound that bad because of the limited gains. But on
yeah,
the other hand, yeah, if you are that far ahead of Kazumaru at this point, you might as well, because you're going to start provincing earlier anyways, you might as well crash them out for more reliability.
yeah. I was
Yeah,
about to say
exactly. I agree.
the downside risk of having a bunch of estates in the deck is you're a lot more susceptible to that rabble attack, top decking a bunch of estates and causing you to dud. So trashing estates has a lot of merit, but in single game kingdoms, often just having one more estate than your opponent can be really significant because if this provinces split 4-4 as they would likely do in most cases. That person who managed to keep more estates would win. So as Tracer, I would be strongly trying to consider if there was a line that hit province this turn, or maybe even buying duchy if you didn't hit province. Because like you're in a position where you can gain as many actions as you want each turn, and so the main limiting factor on your deck is how much it can score. I don't think province is happening here. Actually,
Yeah, no, not this turn. But
I don't even think duchy is happening here, is it? There's only
maybe
five.
it's
Oh,
time
no,
to
this works just barely.
miser.
I would buy a duchy. Tracer just wants more
They
experiments. Like you've trashed an estate, you want to make absolutely sure you are a turn ahead. Kazumaru buying victory cards. Probably this is still fine. Kazu's deck does not do a whole heck of a lot. They started buying provinces here. Yeah, I don't think Kazu, even if Kazu could hit province, I don't think they'd be hitting province consistently from here on out.
is the last card just a copper?
Let's find out. They've trashed 3 coppers, so it would seem so. I think. What are you gaining for Kazumaru? The number of experiments is kind of awkward. You could ball. You'd only get 3
Yeah,
experiments.
there are 2 in the trash. Wow, I didn't. Okay, Tracer has 5 of them. I didn't follow both of those being trashed, but it makes sense with Rice Broker.
Not sure there's a better card than Baker to have in your hand right now, so maybe this swap is doing nothing. Oh, there is something that Kazu wants more. What is it? Cabin Boy. I think that's basically equivalent to Baker. Cabin Boy is going to make 2 money across 2 turns. Baker would also make you 2 money across 2 turns.
Yeah, and Baker is a bit more flexible as it will
Yeah.
be in your deck more often.
I guess the upside of Cabin
For
Boy is like maybe there's a
for
world where you don't draw the Baker next turn. The downside of Cabin Boy is maybe there's a world where you'd rather have the Baker in hand and swap it into something else to kick off the turn.
indeed, Baker can't be swapped into Baker. That's an important consideration.
The null swap. In a farmhand, I would consider setting aside the Rice Broker. Not sure you really want to play it this turn. They're setting aside nothing. Maybe they'll swap the Rice Brokers. Rice Broker into 2
Yeah,
experiments, perhaps.
like if they province here and Kazumaru cannot keep up, then next turn is almost guaranteed to win on
Yeah, for Tracer, you're certainly shooting
Baker.
for a province here.
It's pretty close to, yeah, Breshka's saying the same in the chat. Yeah. Maybe Tracer. Yeah, exactly. Can, yeah. Sorry. And at this point, you don't even need the ball stuff anymore because you just swap in and out of experiments so
Yep.
much.
gaining. Probably need another baker to hit 8. I haven't counted the money. Um, is this 8? I don't think it is.
But even with a baker, it wouldn't have been, and you would have needed to swap both experiments or both the rice broker and whatever you got the cabin boy from into bakers just to hit province, and then you leave 4 experiments in the pile, or 3 experiments. So I
Yeah,
guess they
you'd
just
had
wanted
to
to make
gain
sure that
two bakers.
and
So yep, I really, really want a duchy now.
yeah,
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, perhaps the logic there is you're keeping Kazumaru off the experiments, and the duchy is enough to take a point fleet, so that if Kazu manages to start buying provinces, you're still fine.
another experiment trash.
Kazu's deck, unfortunately, just still doesn't do a whole heck of a lot.
If only they had gone for that miser. I've been
Yeah.
clear of all the coppers now. What is this for Kazu? Is this a rabble? Or does it need to be a baker to...
Kazu wants the rabble.
I guess you swap experiment into something, swap that something back into experiments, and
Yeah, that sounds right.
never seen 0 daimyos before. Yeah, true, but here they're really... I think that the ball always looked like the more enticing option with those 4 experiments in the face of swap.
Yeah, Daimyo would be a legitimately very good card here. We were talking about it at the start. It just turns out that with your 1 buy per turn, the experiments have always looked better.
I think they're just doing the thing with extra steps. Oh no, they play the rice broker and buy ball here again. Wow.
Oh, and they're gonna farm hands and set aside the swamp.
Yeah, but that leaves Tracer to just pile out 5 farmhands with swap stuff and ball. This should be possible like incredibly easily.
Yeah, I think it's quite likely Tracer could just win this turn, piling farm hands. The experiments will go back to the pile, so it's not totally trivial. But it should
Yeah,
be pretty doable.
but they have 6 or 7 swaps, right?
But yeah, you get a billion swaps. You swap like 4 experiments into farm hands, and then you swap something else into a farm hands, and then you ball for the 4 experiments, and you're probably fine. If somehow it manages to not work out, Tracer could also just buy a province and be totally fine.
Yeah. Is this a win in hand with... No, probably not yet, but it should be really close. Like Baker into farmhands, experiment into farmhands, experiment into farmhands, rabble into experiment, and then you're almost there already.
Yeah, it looks like Tracer's planning to win this turn.
And
Yeah,
gaining
that
farmhands to your hands means that you get some space for ottering.
I think the
It
win's in
seems like they
hand.
don't want to part with their experiments in hand. Yeah,
Okay, one
nice.
all.
1 all, indeed.
So now based on the theory from the earlier matches, Japan won the first one. The U.S. has now won. This suggests the U.S. is going to win from here on out because we reached the point where Japan's gotten tired out and the U.S. has woken up. This looks like a fun kingdom. A lot going on here. You got Tomb and Gamble, two of the most fun landscapes. I got Black Market, which can be polarizing, but I find it very fun. Uh,
Yeah.
hmm.
No immediate village apart from Gamble, if you count that as a village, right?
Yeah,
Or am I
so
missing something?
that's probably the main thing you're looking for from the black market then is a village so you can play more terminal action cards. Draw as storyteller. You got Tanuki for trashing as well as scrap. Tracer, I think, is a notorious hater of cage and probably will not be gaining that, but that would also thin your cards. Maroon can trash. Plenty of trashing. I think scrap looks like the best trasher to me early on because it's non-terminal. Kingdom where you probably want Black Market to be your main terminal action card for the moment.
Yeah, I think Scrap Black Market opening is alright.
Let's see.
Just fishing for those villages early on. Like sometimes I dislike opening Black Market just because I might see it with a hand of only one copper or something like that, and then miss out on all the fun stuff I'm revealing. But especially if you're searching for a village,
I
should be
would
fine
consider
to open
scrap
with.
and cage potentially. Um, See if that happens. Also on the 3-4, maybe there's lines that involve gambling. So it's probably not going to end up worth it. Actually, maybe. So supposing you buy scrap turn one and then buy gamble turn two, you get a $4 hand. You have six cards in the discard, which are three coppers, two estates, and a scrap. There's a 1 in 6 chance of hitting scrap, which I would say is a pretty good outcome. You can trash the estate into like silver horse and buy a cage, or trash it into like horse and coin and buy a black market. There's a 1/2 chance you hit a copper, and then you have 3 money. You can still buy a black market, but then you've top decked a scrap with an estate, which seems pretty good.
Yeah,
The worst
and
outcome
even
is
if you
hitting
did,
an estate, and I think that's still fine because then you top deck scrap three coppers estate, which is a fine hand, and you have 2 money left and buy a
yeah,
cage. I like turn two gamble, I think.
true, I missed that.
Kaza goes
And
for
now
it
you
and
have
gets, I think this is probably the single best outcome. Is just hitting the scrap
card
immediately.
money,
What are you doing with it?
card horse, card money, and card horse and buy cage would be an option.
I
Like
think,
I like going for card here to just to trigger that shuffle again with the scrap in it.
yeah, agreed. With exactly 5 cards left and your most important card being scrap, which will end up in the discard, you'd love to draw one extra card so that you trigger the shuffle early. Yeah, Kaza goes for card horse. I think that all makes sense. I like this. Well, Tracer. All right, so Tracer also goes for gamble, hits the copper. We'll see what they gain. Tracer got a cage.
Kazumaru is going to have an amazing cage set aside. No, you just buy black market here. You don't even gamble. And unfortunately, they missed the horse here, but they can still card action the estate, I guess.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate draw for Kazumaru because if they hit the horses in the starting hand, this would look a lot better.
Yeah,
I think you probably take card in action because the downside of drawing the horse dead would be very sad. Possibly you just take silver and a horse and you're fine setting aside two. I would consider that as well.
and like if you bottom deck the horse, then you're still happy to set aside 3 coppers. I mean, not happy and not as happy as you might have been otherwise, but 3 copper cage is still not too bad.
All right, Tracer gets to set aside 4 coppers. That's exactly what you want out of cage here. The coppers are hard for scrap to deal with, and so caging all your coppers and scrapping your estates is the best case scenario.
Bottom decking that estate is not not all too nice.
Yeah, now what are we taking here? Ooh, Gatekeeper is a nasty, nasty attack in a kingdom where black market looks crucial. If you play Gatekeeper every other turn, your opponent just can't gain things out of the black market on that turn because they'll be immediately exiled and there's no way to get them back. That being said, it is a terminal action card in a kingdom where you don't have any villages yet. Kazu just goes for the sentry. Seems like the safer option.
I think Sentry is also nice in like knowing what you have on top of your deck, maybe to hit with gamble, or like right now they will be able to contemplate what they do with the scrap and the state.
Yeah. I mean, Sentry is just generically a very strong card. They have a few coppers left that they'd be happy to trash. It helps you line up all sorts of things. Hmm. What are you buying here? Supplies looks pretty good. I don't think you want to mint two coppers all that badly, although even mint wouldn't be that bad. You just like trash two coppers, then scrap the mint for a bunch of value. Be okay. I think I like supplies, and then you can buy another thing.
Supplies is also pleasant with black market, I guess.
Yeah, you can get the horse immediately. I would have been very tempted with the gatekeeper. So I think card action here is still better than taking money and trying to gamble into the black market.
Yeah.
No village.
Still no village, yeah. I don't think there's anything I want here. I mean, artisan with lack of village at this point is also not too
Yeah,
great, and I agree with Lemon. Skirmisher sounds
1, 2, 3, 4.
like the card your deck wants at this point. You're over terminal anyways, now that scrap is out of stuff to trash.
They've got a few too many cards for it, but something to potentially watch out for with a thin deck is if you had 5 money and only 6 cards in play, you could buy a leprechaun and gamble and hit the leprechaun, and it would activate itself.
Neat, yeah.
They're only 1 card
And the
ahead of
gold
that.
also.
It's like imagine they didn't play a scrap next turn or something that could be on the table.
Also, with a few more cards in deck, I think the warehouse there might have been a
Hmm.
funny thing to get, like just to set up a gamble, set up a sentry, but it's yeah for
Yeah,
sure not warranted.
where else would be a card you'd be happy to have in a few turns? Discard the coppers to the
Yeah,
discard, and you can line up the sentry trash or discard extra terminals so you can reliably gamble them. Um, oh yeah, you would have to also have a buy. Trickle is a good point. So you'd have to, use scrap to get five and a buy. So
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's a little bit less practical than I was describing. It's something I would be on the lookout for. Skirmisher, okay.
Maybe just action coin. What is the last card? Just a copper? Yeah, should be just a copper, right?
Probably you just take card action then.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Or
oh, ooh, hoo, hoo. Procession is a
procession
village,
wars. Now that supplies
and
is looking juicy.
yeah, and
Hmm.
Tracer just got a card that gives you a horse of return. If you play Procession on a horse, you play the horse twice, and then it trashes itself. Or actually, it doesn't even trash itself. The horse returns to the horse pile before it even trashes itself. And then you gain a free 4 cost card, which, I mean, you don't really want a bunch of maroons, but you'd be happy to have maroons in your deck and just scrap them for value. That was a great pull.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's also a village, and you're desperately needing village here. It's pretty
so
great.
I think Kazumaru 1, 2, 3, 4 could has a if they really wanted to play a leprechaun this turn and get a wish, they had a 50-50 chance of doing it. You have to scrap the skirmisher for like actions coins by silver. and then play the black market, and then you'd have 5 money and 2 buys. But you'd also have one more card in the discard, so you're not guaranteed to hit it. I don't think that's worth it in any case, just because you're getting rid of the skirmisher. I see 2 villages. Kazu goes for the festival. Is that correct?
No mine to get rid of your last coppers into cages.
Hmm. Tragically not.
Disappointing.
Maybe festival's better there. So a squire is a festival. No, yeah, it is better. I was thinking squire is just festival that gives one less money, but also squire is only plus buy if you choose the plus buy option. Festival gives you plus buy and the actions at the same time. Yeah, I mean there are good threes
Yeah, and
here
the
that I'd be
question is,
happy
what
to
else were you
click.
buying that turn
Yeah,
otherwise, right?
Tracer scraps the horse.
Probably just leaving the procession black market on top with the horse from the supplies for next turn setup.
Hmm.
Saying, okay, this turn I'm just going to get whatever a tanuki or something.
Hmm.
Or even a skirmisher also. Like the discard attack is not negligible here, I'd say, especially since
Yeah,
you're
I
just so
think I agree
focused
with
on getting the deck in, but
probably
yeah.
skirmisher. You don't really need the storyteller for draw quite yet because you're about to procession a horse, which should draw your deck. Um, you don't have targets that you really need to craft with Tanuki either.
Like also, you don't even need to buy another skirmisher. There might be targets in the black market that you would like that you would buy anyways. And then if you have played the skirmisher before,
So Kazu plays
ooh,
the black
fishing
market
village.
first. Probably got to be fishing village. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Skirmisher, fishing village, and then no, they cannot do the lap thing yet, right? They will have too many
Yeah.
cards in play.
Yeah, I think they could have done it here if they revealed like worse cards from the black market. Like if they hadn't bought the fishing
Nonetheless,
village.
I think I just buy a lap here, right?
Yeah, I would strongly consider just scrapping the copper and buying a leprechaun. So it'd be pretty
And
practical to
also
activate.
go for smugglers. It's guaranteed maroon next turn. Pretty
Yeah,
pretty
that is
nice.
true. You know your opponent's going to gain a card from the kingdom off of the procession.
Keep fishing in the black market. So what would you suggest then? Just another black market?
Yeah, if not leprechaun, I think black market would be the next best buy.
Sure, but you as Kazu, you already have two strongish villages in deck. I think it's fine to add the leprechaun as an extra terminal.
Yeah.
Like you still want to fish for villages for sure, but like having a gold in this deck composition is great. Having the wish, of course, is also super nice.
All right, we've got a difficult sentence here. Shanahan asks, "We're not buying copper, right?" And Lemon Spawn replies, "No." Does Lemon Spawn want a copper or not?
Yeah, I agree that I don't want copper right now. Just also on a kind of maybe being attacked here, and that already would make it hard to draw.
All right, so
Merchant
Tracer,
camp looks fine.
yes, rather a weak village, but it is a village, so you probably got to click it. I think Kazu's probably marginally ahead. Their deck seems a little bit more together. The possession's really nice for Tracer, um, but they're both at two villages apiece, and I think Kazu's deck seems just a little bit more streamlined.
Yudai is suggesting to scrap something else, maybe? Which Sentry? Scrapping Sentry? Or Kazu here? Okay, there's nothing to scrap. Only there were a card that could add a gold to your deck.
So Kazu should be activating Leprechaun here, right? We got two cards already in play. You play Skirmisher, that's a third. Your last card is a Festival, so that's four. Black Market is five. Skirmisher or Sentry is six. Leprechaun is seven. You could consider scrapping the Sentry, would also be a pretty viable line.
Yeah, I think you're not unhappy about having the silver for sure, as also more payload for black market. And at this point, they have two cards in play. So if they play whatever scrap, then skirmisher, then black market playing. No, then the festival, and then leprechaun. They get through it.
Okay,
Although playing skirmisher first suggests that they delay the scrapping.
I think I would
Playing
have
black
scrapped the
market now.
Sentry. I like the
I
Sentry
think they
line.
will. They might still do it, but they might want to draw into the gain from the black market.
Yeah, this could work out. They go for Butcher, probably better than Develop here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Well, now you've got another option. Butcher does change the equation a bit. I think drawing Butcher and butchering the scrap is probably better than the reverse now. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can. Do you gamble into the gold and the wish, or do you just? I mean, the gambling into wish is kind of just losing 2 money, right?
Butcher into Skirmisher, I think. I agree with Lemon's one there. You've got a Skirmisher in play. You'll attack him. And then I think you just buy nothing.
What do you discard here as tracer? Do you discard the leprechaun? Probably.
Mm, it's a good question.
Means you won't activate it. Because I would like to keep the supplies just for the chance of black market showing up.
Also, yeah, I think you
Looks a bit.
probably really need to keep the supplies because if you don't find your procession immediately, you want to put another horse back on top for the next turn.
Yeah. I mean, they have another horse somewhere hidden in the shuffle. This,
Oh, there we go.
there it
All
is.
right, this turn could be pretty fine after
Oh,
all.
another two horses even. Yeah.
That was a
And look
great
at
find off the
this
top.
maroon thing. Yeah.
I think
Can they
Tracer's
still get back to the leprechaun? Hmm.
Market Square looks quite good to me. You're doing a lot of trashing here.
Yeah, market square for sure.
I suppose you could consider Archive. It's non-terminal draw, which is nice in a kingdom with few villages. But I think I'm clicking Market Square here.
Yeah, at Mahorath, they weren't guaranteed to find the leprechaun because they have 3 cards in a discard.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or no, they had. Only 2 cards in discard.
If you wanted to activate the Leprechaun badly enough, you could stop here and click Gamble, and then you would hit it. But you would also have to not play the treasures, which I think makes it not worth it. Interesting. They just trashed the copper.
Now they equalized in trashing.
I am surprised that Tracer did not trash the maroon there. I think it might just be a worse card for the deck, but you're also getting a horse and a silver and such out of it. The last
Yeah.
copper, your other maroon can deal with just fine. I think I would have trashed the maroon, take plus card just to get the leprechaun off the top of the deck where I don't really want it, then take like a horse, a silver, and the last one doesn't really matter. Also,
Also
oh,
tough choice.
I'm
Go
just not
ahead.
noticing they didn't take any of the black market gains. I guess they really wanted to get the skirmisher attack in. Lemon Spawn says Kazu really needs draw now. Yeah, I would expect a storyteller in short order.
Yeah, with Leprechaun up there, even just wishing for a storyteller seems fine. Maybe discard one of those villages to get to your lep earlier.
Yeah, let's count it out. In Leprechaun aside, you'd be happy to just draw those and then play a storyteller, and then you could draw the rest of your deck. But you want to make sure you're drawing Leprechaun before you've played 7 cards, and it's somewhere in the bottom two, right? They didn't discard it.
I think you
Um,
discard Fishing Village, play Skirmisher and Festival, and then wish for the
I think actually
joint
basically anything's
village.
going to be fine. Like you,
Yeah,
even if you left them both on top, you could play Skirmisher, draw the festival, play the festival, wish for a storyteller, and then you've only played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and then you have room to
yeah.
spare to play your leprechaun after playing something else. So all the lines should work out just fine here for Kazu, regardless of what they decide.
Holds is wondering whether Cage is worth as maroon fodder. I guess I would suspect many maroons to be fodder for scraps rather, but and then lining up Cage and Maroon is effectively also only drawing you 2 cards
Yeah, like a
net,
cage
right?
plus a maroon is equivalent to a smithy in terms of how much draw it is, because you're getting 4 cards off of it, but you had to spend an extra card. I think if you have 2 extra money and nothing else to do with it, I could see buying a cage as tracer. Either you get some draw off your maroon, or you can just set it aside and then eventually it pops itself for 1 point from Doom whenever you get a victory card. Not totally obvious.
Yeah, that would be a bit like a I don't know, tower play. Just get 8 cages in play, and then boom, you buy a victory card.
Yeah.
Price points.
I've seen that before with urchins. Forget what the rest of the kingdom was, but I remember it being significant that you just got all the urchins and then trashed them all to gain like 9 mercenaries on the last turn for a bunch of points.
Wow. I have Urchin banned because I dislike the dynamics, but
That's a good
I
choice. I
can
don't
see
like
that
urchin
being.
either.
Yeah, looking at Cage. Yeah, it just says the next time you gain a victory card, trash this. So
Women Spawn just
just
has
says
impressively inaccurate opinions on things. I never managed to be unstunned.
I fully agree. Always they have that fun take on frigate, which I also personally dislike a lot. But I mean,
It's called frigate. It's in the
if
name. You're
you're
supposed to hate it. First mate looks
if
good
they
here.
enjoy playing, yeah, yeah. Kazu just wants draw.
So
Although
first,
I guess with the wishes adding storytellers, it is fine at this point. But
yeah, first mate is in theory a village. In practice, it's probably not going to be a village very often for Kazumaru, whose deck is almost entirely uniquely named cards. If your first mate played two skirmishers, you'd be netting actions off of it. Interesting choice to gamble into the wish. I guess they wanted to
they
top deck
probably want to
the.
attack here, right?
I
They
was thinking
probably
their
want
goal
to
is to
gain.
top deck the first mate, but yeah, maybe the goal is to just gain a skirmisher and get in an attack.
And also that will add a third skirmisher to their deck, which speaking about
Yeah.
first mate.
Yeah, but like even if the first mate is only playing one action card, that still makes it functionally non-terminal. And I think draw to X cards like first mate can be pretty good with black market. I mean, they're also good when you're getting hand size attacked and you want to draw back up. But black market tends to be good with draw to X cards because you put your treasures in play early, reducing your hand size, and you can draw back up with first mate after doing that.
Especially with fishing village and coming in, so you can play first mate first, then black market, and don't have to worry about the action. Maroon. Yeah, you don't want to get rid of that lap. And they missed the black market. And you don't really want to. Well, do you have to play the scrap now? Ouch. That's an awful draw.
Cleverly gaining a curse to hand so they could scrap it for 1 point.
Yeah. Next level strats. Diplomat is a village. Do you go for it over the sculptor? Yeah.
Yeah, for the same reason first mate's good. Diplomat will be active pretty often. You'll often have a hand
Yeah.
size of four or fewer cards.
Wow, we're 1.5 hours in, and I would say we haven't even reached like well, maybe we've reached the halfway point for this game, but with all of this black market stuff going on, I think it's gonna
Kazumaru
be
is
quite a
playing at
while.
a blistering pace. I think it was Mercury 444F versus Kazumaru that was the championship match that took like 7 hours or something. I think Kazumaru was
What?
involved in that.
That's insane. Yeah, I unfortunately will need to leave at well in 1.5 hours. So I don't think it will get to. I hope it won't be that long, but I have some volleyball lined up
I
later.
wish you luck in your volleyball. Kazumaru might not have planned around a 2 hour match timeline.
Yeah, classical chess is also insane. Like the thinking time between the moves.
Indeed. I try to follow the championships, but it just always ends up being more practical to watch a 20-30 minute recap than to actually watch the game live.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not hugely into chess, but if I'm watching chess, then it's the easy, broken down recaps. Mm.
Lemon Spawn says, "This is such an awful position for T to be in psychologically. There is a chance to win, but not a high one, and you have to hold on through these endless turns. It's so draining." Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tracer can activate Black Market here. Or Leprechaun, I meant, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they got an extra action. Yeah, that'll work out just fine.
Oh, but it's Kazumaru's turn right now.
That's a
We're waiting
relevant
for Tracer.
detail that you just brought up. I was not waiting for Tracer. I just kind of assumed it was his turn. All right, forget everything I just said.
They had direction with the diplomat. Nonetheless, they will probably be able to activate their leprechaun this turn, finally.
Ooh, I think I like Distant Shore the best here. It's non-terminal draw, and you're fine scrapping or otherwise trashing to get states with Butcher or Sentry. Wharf is also just a very good card, though. Kazumaru wants the Wharf.
Yeah, with first mate on the skirmishers, I think they have the terminal space. Yeah.
Yeah, Wharf is good for making sure you don't dud, because your next turn you'll have a lot of stuff in your starting hand. It's a black market game. Tracer could always find an outpost in there. How many black market cards have we seen so far? Plays of black market. Black market has been played 12 times. There are 60 cards total in the starting black market deck, so you'd have to play it 20 times to see all of them. Uh, so there's 24 cards left that could contain a post in them.
Yeah, we're
Fortress would
sadly
also
not
be.
going to see. Hmm?
I was contemplating other
Fortress.
potentially very good black market pulls, and Fortress would be a phenomenal one.
Yeah. I guess Fairgrounds would be a one-time victory point boost, but not enough to go against any deck that seriously contemplates provinces.
Cardinal's
And
going to be
Cardinal is really rough.
nasty.
Yeah, Cardinal is awful.
The exile mechanic in general is a lot stronger in black market games because the way you get stuff back out of exile is by gaining another copy of it, and there's only one copy of every card in the black market. So anything stuck in exile is there forever. I'm just going to point out that this Wharf is looking worse than Distant Lands would have been in the same hand. The discard pile has what? There should be a gold down there and a leprechaun. No, there's no gold leprechaun because they've already triggered a shuffle.
I
And
guess
by
maybe one consideration. Sorry. One consideration they had for the distant shore not to take it was the cage in play because
oh,
they
that's a
didn't
good
want to
point. Yeah,
it.
that would pop the cage. I didn't even think about that. That's probably not the end of the world. You'd have to discard the coppers most likely because Tracer would gain a skirmisher. Then you know the coppers are coming up. You can play the sentry into the discard and hopefully trash them. I still think the distant shore looks better to me. Uh, so I think a strong consideration here is just like butchering the sentry into something and then gambling to play the cardinal.
Lemon Spawn is asking. Generally, the horse will be in hand. Yeah, I agree. If you play supplies as the last card or
Oh,
putting
they're
your body.
hypothesizing. I'm following this conversation now. Marcuson was thinking the cardinal would hit the horse, but alas, not. You have to play 6 supplies for a horse to block the cardinal attack. All right, skirmisher is a perfectly fine card for that cardinal to hit. You're going to gain more skirmishers. You'll get that back. Skirmisher isn't actually all that important in your deck. It's a card you want for the one gain effect. Yeah, pitching the procession is actually probably a bigger deal there than um, losing the skirmisher. Why not play Butcher and gamble Cardinal? Good question. What did they end up doing? They just played the Cardinal. I guess one reason maybe is what did they want to buy? The butchering something and gambling. If you gained a storyteller and then the storyteller's top deck, you have to spend an extra 2 money to hit the card. I don't know. I think the butchering sentry line looks better to me. Maybe they really like the sentry. Also a possibility.
Procession Horse in hand, and also the Diplomat. That's nice.
Yeah, good hand for Tracer. Unfortunately, that last turn didn't amount to all too much. So I think they're still pretty
Yeah,
behind.
that Procession discard was, as you said, rather rough.
Kazu needs to find a village. Sure, hoping that they don't.
We keep here just Procession Diplomat, Procession Horse Diplomat.
Sounds right to me, I think.
If there were a poor house around, you could also process the wish. But alas.
That'd be funny. Yeah, Procession on Wish, unfortunately, does not gain you 2 cards because it says return this to its pile. If you did, gain a card cost down to 6, and it can only return to its pile once. You would still get the +1 action twice. So Procession Wish is a village in a pinch, and if there was a 1 cost card action, you would be able to gain that. Okay, so as Kazumaru,
Cashing the black market.
they discarded the black market. Yeah, so you're not getting to play a Leprechaun this turn because all your villages those bottom 5 cards have the festival, the fishing village, and the first mate in them. And they did not find a village in time to line up the Leprechaun.
Actually, yeah, this is going to be a nice lineup of black markets with the first mate.
That's true. Yeah, with 3 black markets in the deck, the first mate has something good to do. Yeah, Holes is pointing out that you could mate the black markets and then you'd get more of them. So who doesn't want to discard the black market? I don't think it should make much of a difference. Does the math work out awkwardly on the storyteller draw? I was thinking you just play the
Yeah, maybe they
storyteller.
don't want to yeah. But if they play gold now, they draw all 6 cards anyways, no?
Yeah, I think this doesn't make a difference. I don't know why they clicked on do there. Maybe they miscounted somehow.
Yeah. Maybe they thought they had another card in discard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or they were thinking about the old. No, the old storyteller also didn't give you plus money. It just
The math changes a bit. I mean, functionally, storyteller is the same, but the way you count the numbers up is a little bit different. The old storyteller
yeah.
just gave you +1 coin and then drew the total amount of money. This storyteller doesn't give you plus coin; it draws a card after you've played your treasures, which is function for most intents and purposes the same thing, but it means the amount of money you have in play is 1 less than the amount you'll draw, rather than being exactly the amount you'll draw, which makes the math just ever so slightly easier to mess up.
Exactly, and then that might have been there. Might have tripped them up there.
I forget why Storyteller changed. I liked the funnier version was the one that had +1 coin, which converted itself into +1 card. I like the old version. I don't know if it was causing
Yeah,
problems with the way the chameleon or something. Who's to say? Why didn't we play this
right
fishing
now,
village first? Good question.
does it matter that much? Yeah, for sure it matters for the hand size. Yeah, true.
Yeah, if you play fishing village and then all the black markets with first mate, your remaining hand size would be 5 cards, and you would draw cards. So there's missed out on free draw. Port is probably the best gain here. Villages are just in such high demand. Mill would be
Yeah,
also a good card in this deck, and Tunnel you could probably activate in various ways.
Mill and Gamble allows you to set up Gamble, I guess.
Tunnel Gamble also has some nice synergy. Like if you just wanted to flood your deck with golds, you put a Tunnel in the discard, and then you just click Gamble over and over, and then you hit the Tunnel, you gain a gold, you gamble, the gold makes you money back, you gamble the Tunnel, and then you're getting golds for
And
like
with
one money
storyteller draw,
each.
that's actually pretty great. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I would think about butchering the leprechaun into something, and then you could rebuy the leprechaun if you want it. Um,
Yeah, it's one victory point essentially.
Kazu does not want to do that.
Like even just replacing it with a leprechaun.
Tracer
Although they
loses a
might still do that
leprechaun.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, Tracer hasn't lost any important black market cards. So they will trash the Leprechaun. I was thinking you would trash Leprechaun into like a silver or something that you would immediately benefit from drawing with the Skirmisher, and then draw the silver and then rebuy Leprechaun. Maybe
Yeah.
there's. Actually, I don't know what they plan on gaining.
No, they
Okay.
want to some more. Experiment is a laboratory from the black market as it doesn't have a pile to return to. It's nice.
Yeah. Um, the black market deck does not count as a pile, and so if you play Experiment, it tries to return to its pile, but there's no Experiment pile in the kingdom, and so it fails, and so you just get to keep it forever. Which is the opposite of how Encampment works from the black market. Encampment looks
Oh
like you
yeah.
would do the same thing, where it's a card that draws you two cards and then returns itself. But Encampment says set this aside and return it to its pile at the end of turn. So if you got an encampment from the black market, played it and failed to reveal a gold, the encampment would set itself aside successfully, and then it would unsuccessfully try to return to its pile and just get stuck in set aside land for the rest of the game.
Although here in this particular kingdom, I might still go for an encampment of the black market, especially after maybe having played some cost reduction. Although they skipped on the inventor, right? Just because you have so many golds in your deck already that revealing them might be
Yeah,
okay. And I think I agree with Holds that the wheelwright also looked quite juicy there. You do want to gain skirmishers, you do want to gain storytellers, and the discarding is not as detrimental due to the first mate.
yeah,
But of
I would
course,
totally click
the experiment.
wheelwright if not for experiment. I think it's hard to pass on a $3 laboratory. Tracer could have assembled the Apprentice Market Square combo. I mean, it's not as impactful with just
No
one
fun
copy
to
of
be had
each,
here.
but a two card synergy to watch out for is Apprentice and Market Square. You trash stuff, which triggers all your Market Squares, gaining a bunch of golds, and then Apprentice can trash the golds, and then you're drawing like 6 cards off of that. Then you draw into more Market Squares, Apprentice more golds, and then that ends up with tons of draw and tons of golds at the end of it. Obviously, you can mix that into a normal deck, but even monolithically, it's pretty strong. It'd be great with Tomb in the Kingdom. What's in the discard? If there's a bunch of stuff in the discard, you could have considered gaining a distant lands and marooning it to draw 6 cards, because distant lands is 3 types. Looks like Tracer is probably just going to trash the maroon with the Tanuki. No, like trashing the gold with the Tanuki into a province. What are we doing here?
Mm,
It's
but
not playing the maroon.
putting those spore coppers back into the deck at this point, while being very likely to be hit by a discard attack. Hmm.
Interesting sentence. I'm surprised that they trashed the gold and not the maroon. I'm not exactly sure what they had in mind. Oh, we're undoing it all. I think they must have just realized the cage thing. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, trashing the maroon looks better to me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get out of the cage yet,
And a skirmisher, I would
so to
expect for
say.
the attack. Yeah. Pacer has trashed more things this game. Unfortunately, Procession Horse does not make any points off of the tomb, because Procession tries to trash the card after you've played it, but Horse returns itself to its pile while playing itself, and so it tries to trash and fails, and the horse just ends up back in the pile rather than in the trash. So no tomb points.
No lab activation here, right? 1, 2, 5, 6. Yeah.
Yeah, not happening.
Like they would have needed to either play the minion or the storyteller as the card before that there.
Yeah, I wonder how greedy you get as Tracer. You got a 5 card hand that's already got the Leprechaun in it. If you want that Leprechaun to activate, you've got to hang on to it because you're not drawing back to your discard pile before you've played 7 cards. But if you leave the Leprechaun in hand, then you're increasing the chance of dudding because you have to discard one of your other cards. It's probably better in value. So the greedy play, I think, would be discarding like Horse and Supplies. The safer play would be discarding Leprechaun Supplies and just planning not to play it.
I guess one of the, like, coming back to the storyteller change, one of the differences now is that you draw the card first, then you get to decide whether to spend coffers and draw
Yes.
the rest when your coin gets converted.
Lemon Spawn points out that Tracer actually has 2 Leprechauns. That does make this choice easier. So I guess you definitely pitch this Leprechaun.
Yeah. Ooh,
Aristocrat.
legionary.
We had different priorities.
Yeah, aristocrat is probably, like, they're both, yeah, aristocrat actually thinking about it a bit longer. Like, you're discard attacking the opponent anyways, whether it's like from a 2 card hand. I mean, it's for sure more brutal than just the 3 hand cards discard. But you really want the actions, as many of them as you can get.
Yeah, that first copy of Aristocrat's going to be a double village. And villages are important to your Legionary. Is a marginally more annoying discard attack than Skirmisher, but it's also terminal.
Yeah, but I mean, why would you stop gaining attacks here? I'm kidding. But there is the gatekeeper still in the black market deck, although at this point I'm not super
Ooh,
sure how much that's
all of these look good.
gaining. Yeah, coin.
So Coin of the Realm is
Let's see.
twice as good as usual in Kingdoms of Black Market. Normally, Coin averages out to being like 1 village per turn. It's like a double village every other turn. You play it for free in your buy phase, and then it's 2 actions the next turn. With Black Market, you can play Black Market, play Coin of the Realm in your action phase, call it in the same action phase, and it's back in your deck for the following turn. And so you're getting the effect every single turn. So yeah, Coin looked great. Sculptor, I think, looks great. Bank up some villagers, which is nice. Sculptor could gain cages to hand later in the game if you wanted to set aside your provinces. And then develop, it is trashing and it's gaining all sorts of stuff. There's things of various prices here.
May I interest you in this mint?
Mint would score 3 points.
Where is the third one coming from?
Oh
Like
no,
2 golds, I see.
you could have put the third gold into play if you wanted to trash it.
Yeah.
Kazu goes for Figurine. Generally a pretty weak card. Another card that's buffed by Black Market because you can play it in the action phase where it's more valuable to draw cards.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary for them to gain that figurine.
Yeah, it's certainly not a necessary card. It's like a laboratory that you have to line up with Black Market to get the full value of. Actually, Storyteller also. Figurine could also be played in the action phase using Storyteller, which, to be fair, is only as
Yeah.
valuable as a silver. Actually, it's marginally better than a silver. Storyteller playing silver and Storyteller playing Figurine are both drawing 2 cards. But the Figurine Could, in theory, draw you into additional treasures that you might also want to play. You're turning the gold into something. Ooh, the horse into something. I was thinking you were going to trash the gold and then play the minion.
I
Um,
just want to see more of those black market cards again.
yep.
Why not play that cardinal first there?
That's a good question.
And I mean, you're going to draw it here with the figurine, I guess, but
Yeah, it looks like it will end up mattering, but I don't have a good reason why you shouldn't have played that first.
maybe they wanted to try to top deck a horse, although then you cannot play the figurine.
What are you gaining here? Hmm.
Just, I don't know. I think just buying a province is fine.
They want none of them. Seems reasonable. This cardinal
I don't
actually has
think there's
not
that
done that
much
much
more to.
damage.
Yeah. I don't think there's that much more to build for here, right? I mean, you can add and should add probably some Tanuki at some point.
One way to score here would be if you draw your whole deck, you can buy distant lands and then gamble them to get them straight onto the mat, and you
Oh,
spent
true.
7 money for 4 points that doesn't clog your deck.
Yeah. But Kazu also has War, Fishing Village, and a lot of draw
I
and up.
think I'm against buying province here. There's not a pile threat, and there's still stuff in the black market you can gain. You can add more storytellers. You can gain plenty more golds.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Also,
And this is kind of like the opposite of the Ford
these.
situation, where there was uh, some pressure to get provinces earlier. Here, you've got plenty of alternative
Yeah.
victory points between Tomb and Distant Lands, so it would not be hard to play catch up if your opponent got a majority of the provinces.
True. True. Yeah. No, I think I agree.
Or even more than the
Um,
Forge game, actually. The Baker swap game was one where there was very heavy pressure to buy province early because of the lack of gains. So what does one buy? I suppose a skirmisher comes with an attack, and a storyteller. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. That market square still looks like a very good pull. If someone could find that. Lots of trashing happening. You'd be able to fill your deck with golds very quickly. Shanahan has a good
true. On
point.
the Baker's
The game did end
game, there
before they
was
even got
only
to
the
province.
duchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Goodbye, Leprechaun. Do they know the second one's coming up soon? Certainly, you still want to play that if you can. Is another one
They
exiled?
could have procced it.
Oh no. Tracer has two
Didn't they
leprechauns.
discard it? Maybe, yeah, maybe I'm confusing this with a discard
They did
the
discard a
previous turn.
leprechaun. No, you were correct. They're hoping to draw back around to it, and they might not find it in time.
But procession on Leprechaun would have looked really good. I don't. I think. Hmm.
Yeah, no leprechaun play this turn. I assume the thinking was they wanted to play the Tanuki before drawing the Tanuki. You also always want to avoid drawing shadow cards if you can, because it's just wasting a draw
Yeah.
if it's a card you could have played from your deck. And so, of the cards in their hand, the card you'd probably be most happy to trash is the redundant Leprechaun. And then they were just hoping to draw back into their second Leprechaun and didn't manage to find it.
Yeah.
With a very large hand, I'd be very worried about playing Leprechaun because if you get poverty mid-turn, that's very painful. If they
Yes, you
play the
might.
black market and
Yeah.
play some treasures
Yeah.
first, you could consider playing this Leprechaun and gaining a gold because most of the hexes aren't so bad if your hand size is small and then the discard ones all don't hurt you. What's the score? Just joined. I believe it's 1-1, and we're on game 3. And you might
And
be
it's
asking, but
it's
isn't it?
5.
Yeah,
So
isn't it 2 hours in? Well, first off, it's a black market game, and second off, Kazumaru is one of the players.
other time, yeah.
Why not buy Market Square? You
And
were asking a very good question that I do not have a good answer to, Apostoloso.
yeah, I mean, even Treasure Trove wouldn't have looked too bad, but in face of Market Square, you certainly prefer that, as you are going to trash stuff anyways.
Yeah, if for some reason there was a no buying Market Square agreement between the two players, I think Treasure Trove would be a reasonable card to add. And Warehouse we were discussing, it's probably better for Kazu's deck, but also is perfectly fine for Tracer. Like you just want to be able to find your storytellers consistently.
Emptying Skirmisher is nice, but there are still plenty of attacks in the black market deck the opponent could gain.
Yeah, Kazumar is playing a lot of black markets. I don't think I'm that concerned about not getting a skirmisher. I wanted that Market Square a lot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards already there. So yeah, you could cantrip the Storyteller in hopes of finding a lab, but I don't think it's happening here.
Yeah, I think we're just the leprechauns are finicky creatures.
For sure.
Finicky sounds like a word a leprechaun would use. Wouldn't a leprechaun speak Irish? Maybe not. Do even Irish people speak Irish at this point? I think most of them don't. Maybe the leprechauns also got with the times.
I am horrible at recognizing those regional differences usually. Ooh, look at that first mate. Immediate neuron activation, playing 5 black markets at once.
Yeah, on the one hand, the first mate is not drawing you any cards with a hand size this large, but that first mate is playing a million black markets.
Maybe they'll get back around to the market square again. Actually, it's not that unlikely. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
This Cardinal
Rough
has
seeing.
severely underperformed, I gotta be honest.
What is underperformed? I'm sorry, I didn't get that
The
first word.
Cardinal. It
Yeah,
hasn't hit anything particularly valuable from Tracer.
but it has messed up that procession horse thingy that
Yeah.
would have been possible. But yeah, it's
Brushka asks, why not exile the left? I was expecting that as well. I guess they are expecting to more naturally regain Storyteller than be forced to go out of their way to get another Leprechaun. As Kazu, I'd probably play the minion first for money before playing all the black markets. You don't know how much money you'll need depending on what you find. Butchering the cavalry also looks pretty nice. Maybe you butcher cavalry into a gold and draw it with skirmisher, and then you've got a gold to play with the black markets as well.
but you have the actions to also later on play the cavalry and just butchering a horse, right?
Yeah, you also
Of
could do
course,
that.
then you won't be able to gain the gold, gain and play the gold.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
could even do all of that first. Just play the cavalry first, draw one horse, butcher that.
another
Another
black
black
market
market.
also
I was
sounds
just thinking we
nice.
didn't have enough black markets in this hand. Ooh, monastery. That's an interesting card.
No, right? I mean, you're not going to end up with a lot of cards in your hand at the end of turn that like you would like to
I'm
trash.
yeah, I'm just imagining gaining a victory card and putting a bunch of coppers back into your deck, and then the monastery trashes all the coppers for 1 point each. I don't know if that's worth it, but that's what my mind thought of.
Tunnel here?
All of these look great. Kazu wants the
Wait,
artisan.
I just timed
Ooh,
out.
hello there, Watchtower. Goodbye, Watchtower. We want Squire. Brushk asks, is Tunnel
Oh,
Gamble
what?
a gold autopile? Not quite. Tunnel Gamble converts your money into gold at like 1 coin apiece. So imagine your discard pile has nothing but a tunnel in it. You spend 2 money, you hit the tunnel, you gain a gold. Then you spend 2 more money, you hit the gold, you get $3 back. And now you're back to a situation where you've just got a tunnel in your discard pile. So you spent 4 gambling, you got 3 back, you lost 1 money and gained 1 gold. And so if you had like 20 money and a tunnel in your discard, you could gain like 15 or 18 gold, however many. It doesn't quite work out to be exact because you have to have a little extra money left over. But you gain a bunch of golds, but it doesn't automatically go out of the pile.
Lemon says I liked Watchtower, and I think I for sure agree.
Watchtower would be amazing here if
Watchtower,
you had extra buys, because then you could just buy coppers and trash them immediately and get 1 point per. The buys are a little bit limited, so maybe they just wanted the actions more, but I still think Watchtower looked pretty nice.
Priest Watchtower Tunnel is an autopile.
Ooh, that's fun. They could have lined that up if they'd taken the Watchtower. So you play a priest first, you leave a Watchtower in hand, you do the gamble tunnel thing I was describing a second ago, but you trash the gold every time you gain it. And then A, you don't have to gamble the gold. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. Gambling the gold is fine. But more importantly, like you'd make 2 money back for every gold you trashed, and that would fund the next gamble of the tunnel.
Are there other throne rooms apart from the procession still left in a black market deck? I haven't.
I don't recall offhand. That is funny that they saw a sequence of 3 black market reveals. Like you had no way of knowing that you were going to hit the tunnel watchtower priest combo in order. Kazumaru is going to get lost in the black market. It's like Harry Potter getting lost in Diagon Alley. Too many things to buy.
But I mean, playing those 6 black markets off of a single first mate, who could resist that?
Yeah.
Where's their leprechaun? Oh no, they trashed it last turn and they I forgot about that completely. They trashed it last turn and they didn't regain it.
Think you stop here. You can just play the squire for money, play artisan, maybe gain a
Top deck
distant
storyteller.
lands, and top deck the storyteller.
Yeah. And you can play the distant lands immediately. Yeah.
Rushka
Yeah,
says,
but
but
the watchtower would also be nice to set up like a leprechaun that you put on top.
Rushka says, if you have 2 golds and 1 tunnel in your discard, don't you spend 6 money to get 6 money and a gold? Yes, but you only get 1 gold back out of that, and so then the next time you gamble through the discard pile, it'll be back to tunnel and 1 gold. So it doesn't sustain itself indefinitely.
Yeah. Distant lands play. Top deck storyteller. Or you could also top deck distant lands, I guess, and gamble into it, but you have the action.
Oh yeah, the
And with
golds go into
priest, you're
play.
nice. Sorry?
I was responding to the last comment.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the priest, I think you're nicely set up also to deal with those coppers this turn, even if you were to be attacked.
Yeah, Priest could make potentially a lot of money here. Are we inspired by what Kay accomplished there? Just over the course of the whole turn, it seemed like a satisfactory turn. They gained a bunch of stuff. They top decked some good stuff. I don't know if there was a more specific part of that we were wondering about. Racer gain in the distant lands as well. I'm surprised by the early distant lands gain. Like I would think the best time to gain distant lands, generally speaking, is in your buy phase when you can just gamble it immediately. But maybe
Inventor.
Inventor could be good. Do you have the space to play it?
That's a good question. Is do they still have the procession down there?
Seems
But
like
they don't have any horse. Ah, they have a horse left. I think I would have liked to get that inventor there. Hmm.
yeah.
Advisor, I don't feel
I would say cost
is
reduction cards like Inventor. I mean, they're just mostly very strong in general, but I think they're extra strong in the black market kingdoms. A tends to be that cost reduction synergizes well with big engines, and black market games tend to lead to very big engines, as we're seeing here. And then B, there's also just like a lot of cards where being able to reduce the cost by one ups the strength of that card a lot. So, like Sculptor, for example, if you get the Sculptor that was in the black market, then Inventor plus Sculptor means the Sculptor can now gain fives. And there's a lot of stuff like that that I'd watch out for.
yeah.
Um, hmm, don't know what that bottom card is. Do you?
Just a silver
Silver? Okay.
off of that double scrap play. I'm also not sure, but I think it. Yeah, it has to be the silver.
Scarred attack is going to hurt here as Kazu. You have six chances to find an attack in the black market deck.
Maybe even the legionary.
Yeah,
And notably, also they themselves weren't hit by a discard attack here with
that,
that
that's a good point. This would have been a
touchdown.
great turn for Tracer to get a black market attack card. They didn't find one. Um, Gatekeeper is probably a little bit late to matter much. Still could be a marginal annoyance. Gatekeeper would probably be better for Tracer than for Kazumaru because it really messes with Artisan's on gain effect. Even if you can get the card back, it's no longer going to your hand.
Yeah, yeah, and it completely shuts down the rest of Kazu's black market enterprise, although only every other turn. So
All right, I should be back in a minute. We'll see if Kazu manages to finish the turn before that happens.
yeah, I mean we are heading close-ish to pile out territory. I think with 3 black markets left in the pile and all of those like gainers and trashers in Kazumaru's deck. Playing the priest here first for sure makes sense, followed maybe by a butcher to turn something else into another black market for the full experience there. And they were probably, I'm not sure what they were hoping for to find here, but this storyteller is not going to draw all the way through, although they have another storyteller in hand and will be able to find the first mate here. Hmm. Yeah, I wonder whether this is a win already on something like scraps and black markets. Like you butcher into scrap, you gain a scrap off of artisan, you get a bunch of buys by scrapping stuff, you get a bunch of money from the priest, you have a bunch of money from the black markets, and even some extra buys from squire if you so need them. And just eyeballing it, this looks like it should be a scrap black market pile out. Yeah, I agree that I would be shocked if it weren't. And then you also get to have like 12 money off of those black markets. Yeah, I think the victory points come off of tomb then easily by scrapping. Like I think I would have preferred to scrap to butcher that root cellar into a scrap rather than a black market, but it also looks fine. Yeah, I guess you can play the black market for free. I was just thinking about more stuff to trash, more to just buy off of the scrap. You go for that Margrave here. I don't think you need anything from that from the black market at this point if you're going for the pile out. And yeah, for sure. Remodel looks good. It's essentially it costs 2 money if you 2 money and an action to play. And wheelwright also an extra gain. You have a lot of draw, so I guess it's essentially a plus buy in disguise. Buying that wheel right here. And this should be sealed. And we have reshuffled the black market deck, so market square coming in clutch now. I would like to see that off of the last 2 black market plays. Yeah, and this is already 4 buys. If you play the squire, it's 6 buys in hand. If you play the scrap, it's another one. This is
I am
easily enough
back.
buys, enough gains. Hello. Yeah, I'm just
Is this the same turn
talking.
from Kazu? I think it is.
It's still the same turn.
Okay.
There might be an end of this agony I'm entering,
Okay.
but there might be an end of this game very, very close by. Yeah, tunnel would have also been fine. But my idea would be to pile out on scraps and black markets. At this point, they have 4 buys and lots of money. They have a priest plate. If they gain a trash whatever, they already get 2 money back. Scrap is an extra buy, also also an extra coin. So it's essentially, yeah, if you, for example, scrap horse, it's neutral, and you could even at the end of the turn, if you had some leftover cards in hand, and gamble into the scraps for victory points. It would be neutral on money, or even beneficial on money if you trash good cards. Yeah, this should be
Just
a
looking at it,
win.
it looks like it should pile out. The fact that Kazu just gained a militia suggests that maybe he's not thinking about the pile out, because that's very much a next turn play. Though
Yeah, the
maybe
militia
he'll.
is surprising.
Hey, well, it makes a lot of sense if you're planning on having another turn because you're discard attacking your opponent by a ton. Um,
Yeah, but even just wheelwright and artisan for 2 storytellers here, right? And you need to score a bit, but you can do this off of scrapping. Well,
yeah,
I'm not sure. Maybe
I think
the scrap line is safer because it immediately gains you those victory cards, victory points. But
Yeah, I think I like the idea of going for scraps. I suspect you could also win on storytellers. Um, we'll see. Those bottom two cards are a militia, and I don't know what else.
I also have not paid enough attention. I think the first no,
Remodel.
the first mate I've
They just got a
remodel.
remodel.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Even that. Maybe they're thinking it through now, realizing now.
So I just think this has to be a win. Gain a bunch of scraps, scrap a bunch of stuff. Once you got scraps in the discard, you could gamble the scraps and scrap more stuff, and you'd make 3 money back, which would pay for the scrap, or for the most part, and it would score a point.
Although there might be hopes of remodeling into the black market just to find that market square at last. We have reshuffled the. Oh no, they denied. Oh, they saw the market square and did not go for it. I'm just realizing now everything happened so fast. Wow.
Yeah, Market Square still looks very good to me, even at this stage of the game. And
Yeah, certainly better than the militia.
so now Kaz is going to look
Yeah,
for pile out. I think it'll probably still be there.
Udai wants a deck tracker. Well, the big brain play is anyways to just draw your deck every turn so you can see everything. Like Kazumaru did. It's probably just that they tend to forget what they have in their deck, so they go for that big draw.
I wonder if you could pile Tanukis. Gain a Tanuki, gamble it, trash a thing, you get 2 money back, trash another thing. If you got enough 3 cost cards in your hand, you could autopile the Tanukis.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like they have so much stuff, like just stuff in their hand.
Yep.
But scrap black market is the most obvious one. Yeah, Tanukis, I guess.
Okay, well, let's see. If you had 8 money, now how much would you need? You would need to have, I don't know exactly, probably 13 money to buy Tanuki, 2 black markets, and a gamble. So you need to play 2 carpets to get to 8. A squire gets you to 9. And then, well, actually, no, let me think about it this way. You remodel a horse into a Tanuki. That gets you to 8 money. Then 2 coppers get you to 10 money, and that should be enough. So if you just play the remodel, gaining one Tanuki, then the coppers, then you have one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7 other cards in hand. So you don't have quite enough to trash 9 Tanukis. Um, maybe it would be there. Obviously, Tanuki is not the pile you're most naturally looking at, but I think it might even be possible to pile Tanukis. It would be close. The fact that not Udai, look at the chat. The fact that Kazumaru discarded the storyteller suggests they're probably looking at the storyteller pile out over the scrap pile out, which I think should also be pretty fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gain one with artisan. You gain one right here. You gain one with artisan. You play remodel to remodel. I don't know, militia into storyteller. Play the squire for 4+ actions before that, and then scrap something. should have enough money to like you only need, well, 6 money off the black markets and then 5 for storyteller and then maybe a province or so on top.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you already have a lot of money in hand, and every trash yields 2 money. That might even be more straightforward than doing the scrap line, because you don't have to keep track of as much trashing and what is in your discard.
Sure, Kazu's gonna find it. It might take him a second.
Yeah, yeah. Like right now, you only have the storyteller in the discard, right? That means if you gain a storyteller, play a horse to draw them both up. They are then play the squire for actions. The storyteller and or both storytellers are great targets for scrap and remodel. Then you artisan as well. Before that, you might play the minion for 2 money. That's already 12 money plus plus 1 money from the scrap, plus 1 money from, that's 14 money, 2 coppers, that's 16. So enough, well, duchy and storyteller 2 black markets, and that's not quite there, right?
We'll
With
find out in
20
a
victory
moment.
points. Yeah. Yeah, I think the storyteller line is some money short, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay, they don't go for the win this turn, it looks like.
Maybe. I mean, this could still
Or
be.
no, actually, maybe distant lands might be efficient points. Efficient enough points.
Maybe we're still thinking about piling scraps, and you just wanted the distant lands for the points.
Mm-hmm. Like remodeling, I don't know, cardinal into scrap. No, apparently not.
Trash the militia. And coin, silver, and horse makes sense.
Trash the storyteller. Although if you play for another turn, you just maybe want to top deck. Oh, we even have another
Oh,
action. I
did you
did not
need to take
consider that.
actions then?
So
I mean, I guess I don't know what else you take besides actions off of that scrap. You don't really need the buys. Um,
the important question is there still a win on scraps and black markets at this point, or like something involving gamble?
hmm. So if artisan gains a scrap to hand, you top deck a copper. You scrap a storyteller for like cards, buys, coin, silver, and a horse. You play the horse. You've drawn another horse and a silver. Um,
You remodel a silver into, or a cardinal into scrap.
oh, I forgot we were still resolving the remodel. Um, I think it's gonna be here. I still believe. Obviously, it's easier to say, "Ah, just go for it" when you're watching. The problem is if you go for the win and end up
Or
being short by a money or two, you've just lost the game.
yeah, yeah, of course. But and I guess with 6 scraps left in the pile, it might not be obvious to look for it there.
Crash a silver into a scrap. As a scrap and you discard. You play an artisan, gaining a scrap to hand. You top deck a thing. You play the horse. You draw all that. Maybe you trash the storyteller first, then play a horse. Then you scrap a cardinal into another silver and a horse, and you draw a bunch of that. And then you leave some silvers and horses in hand, and then you buy some scraps and gamble some scraps. You would need to have functionally for 4 scraps and 2 black markets 18 money. And I think you'd be hitting 18 because you're scrapping a bunch of stuff in those lines.
And the victory points should be there naturally from Tomb.
Yeah. Okay, we trashed the cardinal. I'm expecting to see a scrap gain here.
Yeah, I want to see the scrap. I mean,
Tanuki.
the
Interesting.
Tanuki,
What does that signify? That we're not
Tanukiing
trying to
the
pile out?
artisan into a province. That interesting.
Yeah, to me, the Tanuki suggests Kazu couldn't find a win here. I am like 100% confident there was a win here going back as far as like the militia game. And I'm pretty sure there was a win here even after that.
Why do they top deck copper? I mean, probably they play the horse anyways. Is this still
There's a
winning on
different
storytelling somehow?
interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They found a win there.
in
Interesting
a
on
very interesting
storytellers,
order, but it works out.
and they
So
could
that
even gamble into the black markets again.
yeah.
They found it after all. Nice, nice line.
Yeah. I can't imagine that was the most efficient line, but it worked out. Okay, 2-1 for Kazumaru. So I believe if Kazu wins any of the next 3 games, Japan wins the match. If Tracer wins all 3 of the next 3, then it's a tie.
In that case, you have like the tiebreaker games, right?
I have no idea how does the tiebreaker work. Yes, I think there'd be one. It would be 1-1 on matches, and it'd be exactly even on game wins as well. Would I have to play again if we tied? Maybe I'm rooting for Japan all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. I will need to leave in half an hour,
Okie
unfortunately.
dokie. We might
Um,
not even be finishing game 4 by then. Okay, so this kingdom, we got Hostery as the main village, Blockade, and just workshops in general are quite good at Hostery. You gain a Hostery, you
and I,
discard all your coppers, get a bunch of horses. For draw, there's Alchemist, Council Room, Slay. Not much trashing until a pile empties, and then Carpenter is good at trashing estates. You do have Mine for the coppers, which is, I suppose, something. Mainly, I think you're looking to just discard the coppers for horses on repeat.
what do you
Uh,
think about the Night Watchman opening?
I think it makes sense. I
Uh,
mean, just look at this hand that Tracer's got. Very happy to see
this is
that.
an amazing thing. Like, this is the best outcome, it feels. I know it was actually more or less likely, given that there was only one estate in there.
Yeah, it was 5-6 likely, I believe. The worst case scenario is if the
Yep.
state's at the very bottom, and then you still see the exact same hand, but with an estate bottom decked. So essentially, 100% guarantee that 5 card hand would happen. Um,
Yeah. Kazumaru agrees, has the same draw, but doesn't have the option to take the blockade
this is
without
a
taking a curse.
phenomenal turn 4 draw for Tracer. Like this was not set up by the Night Watchman at all. I'm hoping Kazumaru mirrors the Blockade plan. Or maybe they'd gain Carpenter over Blockade since it doesn't come with a curse. Um, they might gain Hostery immediately, in which case Tracer's path becomes a little bit less clear. But if they gain anything else, maybe even if they gain Hostery, I think as Tracer you just gain a Hostery, pitch 4 horses, play the Night Watchman, pitch likely 3 estates, and then you're in a phenomenal position.
Gain potion for alchemists. I think that might be too slow.
Yeah, I don't think I believe in the Alchemist here.
There's so much other draw within Hostery early on.
I think you're mostly looking
Mm,
to be pitching all your coppers every turn. I don't want to leave 3 coppers to buy an Alchemist.
Potion is also a Wolf Den card that you will have to remove later then. But I
Yeah.
guess so is the Night.
This kingdom gets a lot stronger once the Hostery pile empties, because then the Carpenters can be remodels, and you want the remodel effect here a lot more than the shop effect.
What do we blockade as Tracer?
I'm,
Just a
I'm expecting a
Hostery, discard
Hostery.
copy? Yeah.
I
Looks
think,
also amazing. Watchman and top decking all of those coppers.
yeah,
And
Kazu is going to be in the very awkward position of having to gain a curse at some point, because I would expect that if Tracer's deck functions the way it ought to, there will be a Hostery blockaded every single turn.
yeah. As Lemon Roach, it's nice to be player 1 in this one.
Yeah.
Oh, they opt to just discard those coppers.
This is
I
what I was
guess.
expecting. Like the only thing you could possibly be drawing into is estates. Rather leave the estates on top and pitch them all with the
Yeah,
Night Watchman.
yeah, true, actually.
Yeah, the silos isn't actually doing a whole lot early on because you'd rather keep the coppers in hand. Yeah, so now Kazu's in a very awkward spot because Hostery looks like a super important card and one that he does not have access to. I expect what's probably going to happen is next time Kazumaru sees a blockade, they'll just blockade the Hostery and they'll have to take a curse, but then now the ball's back in Tracer's court of having to take a curse if they want to get the Hosteries back. Carpenter isn't really contesting Hostery in a
Tracer is
meaningful
going to
way.
have a lot of- Yeah, Tracer is going to have a lot of forces to work with at that point,
Yeah.
whereas Kazumaru will.
So they did pitch a bunch of horses, I guess, to make sure they found the blockade. Makes sense. Those bottom
You
4
could leave that
cards.
horse in here
Yeah,
and
that
just
might be
get
correct.
3.
You've got 2 estates down there that you'd rather pitch with the Night Watchman.
Yeah. And you even get to trigger the next shuffle. Yeah. Okay, do I disagree? Okay, I guess
Think this
that's
is just
also.
worse. They played 3 horses to get 2 more horses.
And now they have, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see. I guess they're.
Hmm.
I don't really like this as much.
Well, they want the real draw in their deck. They don't want to get into the endless hostelry cycling.
Well, so it's going to
I
work
don't
out just
disagree.
fine because Kazumaru didn't find either of their blockades, which is rather unfortunate. I think the big risk there was you let Kazumaru gain a free Hostery if they find their blockade, and now you're in the position of having to take curses if you want to blockade Hostery again. I think I would have been happy to just keep gaining Hosteries, and then at some point you have enough horses to buy the Count's Room, still get a Hostery to hand, and be okay. This one came with no
Yeah, this
horses.
looks to be super over.
Tracer's line is looking really good if you know that Kazumaru bottom decked all their blockades and carpenters. I think it looks a lot more awkward in a world where Kazu has a hand that's like blockading a bunch of coppers.
Yeah, but even if Kazu had managed to blockade hostelry here, you just again take the curse, right?
Yeah, but you're gaining an extra curse and they're missing out on a curse. Like that right there is as much draw as a council room.
Wait, how are they missing out on a curse? Tracer had blockaded hostelry last turn,
Oh, I see. So
so
they
they
yeah they still did gain the Hostery. They just didn't get any horses out of it.
yeah, and that's your confusion. Yeah. Lovely hand to see for Tracer.
Yeah, normally it would be a terrible hand, but you're happy to see a bunch of coppers when you got silos around.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Kazu has to bite the bullet with that hostelry here. Right, yeah.
This just all looks terrible for Mario. They finally gained a Hostery just to get a handle on that pile, and it didn't even come with any horses. That's painful.
Hmm. And as Tracer, you just set aside although you have Council Room hostelry in there.
Yeah, not a great draw for Tracer, but they did find the blockade. I think you're gaining a Hostery here.
Yeah, keeping the pressure on the pile, even if that means you eat a curse here.
Potion, exciting.
They disagree. Saying, okay, next turn. More blockade.
Interesting. Kazu wants to. Uh, yeah, I was about to say that seemed like a misclick. I think Kazu was trying to play the sleigh, and they accidentally triggered the reaction. I think
Classic.
yeah, the other line you could have considered as Kazumaru is gaining a blockade to hand, or I guess not a blockade because that's cursed. Gaining like a Hostery or Carpenter to hand, which then gains the Hostery. I think playing the sleigh is probably better. Exactly three in a potion. That's nice. I think you got to take a Hostery here, and then maybe another blockade, maybe a second potion. Who knows? Second Carpenter, Slay. A lot of reasonable things to gain here.
Yeah. Even though that hostelry for sure hurts, especially since you are not discarding. Or are you? No.
Yeah, you gotta eat the
So
curse,
yeah,
but it means your
you
opponent's gonna
definitely
be in the same position next turn.
yeah, you have to put the pressure on that hostelry pile.
The blockade attack is mattering a lot more than usual. Normally, I kind of forget that it gives out curses, but here it is one of the main upsides of the card. Of course, Lemon Spawn finds the attack the main appeal of blockade.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If there is only one village, that immediately makes it centralizing.
But even
Because
so, like a lot of times there's just trashing, and the curse is more of a mild annoyance.
with embargo, you could have now embargoed the alchemist pile. Sad times.
I remember playing a match. Who was it against? Maybe Heron for the big money tournament. I'm forgetting. It was a while back, but I remember they opened a potion for familiar, and I opened embargo and planned to embargo the familiar, which I thought was the hard counter to the familiar opening, and I think it was the right call. But then I bottom decked the embargo. They got their familiars in time and managed to give it a bunch of curses, and it went terrible real fast.
I mean, whenever you open potion for familiar and you hit that 3 coppers potion and not some fudge where you have too many estates in a potion hand, then you're pretty happy anyways. Like even if that came with a curse.
Yeah, um, I think embargo ought to be a decent counter to familiar a lot of the time because either they're taking multiple curses early on, and then it's really amplifying the downside of familiar, which is being super slow to get going. Because now your deck is just your starting cards, a potion, a bunch of curses, and a bunch of blank cantrips. Or you just take like
Yeah,
the
true.
one familiar, and then you still get to give out nine of the curses, but they're coming in very slowly, and then you can deal with them.
Typical game from 8 years ago. I did not know Dominion back then.
Yeah, the embargo versus familiar matchup. I think this is more like 4 years ago, if I had to guess. Interesting. Kazu gains a blockade coming with a curse. That surprises me a bit. Hostery, I think, is like a must gain pile. Blockade is a good card, but like if blockade is blocked, you could gain them later or gain a carpenter as a substitute, and I think be just fine. I don't think I cared about blockade enough to gain a curse for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was thinking about that term for a bit, and I was not. Maybe there was a method to the madness.
I don't know. They
Ooh,
blockaded
this is
a
a big ol' hand to hit two in a potion. It's fine. You can just pitch all three of the treasures for three horses and call it a day.
also equalizing on the wolf den curse stuff.
Yeah. One of these players has a single copy of silver, and that's the only economy in any deck. What was that? That was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 card hand that didn't hit three. Carpenter being blockaded looks kind of annoying now. With two piles almost empty, Carpenter is about to become the MVP of this kingdom.
Why do they keep the potion?
I top deck the Alchemist, I guess. I don't think that's worth it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, true, for sure.
Like all you're doing is top
I'm not
decking
sure how
one draw
to
card
put
versus
it in
adding
that
an extra
way.
draw card to your deck.
Yeah, I agree. I would also rather have more horse.
Like the Watchman is going to top deck the horses for you, which is like top decking an alchemist. I don't like keeping the potion, not at all. That's a
Yeah,
lovely reveal.
with Hostelry, Blockade, and also somewhat the curses being low, I don't think we're too far off of the game ending potentially.
Gain a hostelry. I think Kazu is planning to empty hostelries this turn.
And then they can. Yeah, I agree with putting it in hand immediately.
Is this
That's
a win? I have my doubts. Lemon Spawn seems to think
like you
it's a win
can gain.
already.
Yeah, if Blockade were blockaded, then for sure. But this is also already really close.
5 curses is a lot of
Like,
curses. Let's see. So you play your hostelry, and you got 3 actions. You can blockade a hostelry, blockade a blockade. You lowered the curses to 4 now, and then you remodel an estate into a blockade. I mean, yeah, I'm not seeing it.
but now maybe possibly the huge points deficit is coming to bite Tracer. Like they have the potion, they have the alchemist. Mm,
Yeah. Tracer is
maybe they
certainly
can
going
go
to need
beyond it.
to score a bunch this turn. Uh, I think I'm still choosing Tracer's position. I think it makes sense for Kazu to lower piles a bunch with a point fleet, and then you're hoping that Tracer has a weak turn, and then you capitalize on that. Tracer has a bunch of
Yeah.
horses. They got the council room, and then it's pretty easy to make up a bunch of points here real fast. Like you trash a Night Watchman, you gain a council room. You just had a 6 point swing because you fixed 2 cases of Wolf Den problems. Alchemist was
Yes.
negative 6 points
Sounds
plus 0 net draw. It's pretty funny. Uh, got some conversation. I think is I'm gonna guess just based on the start of that sentence that maybe Wata's hypothesizing this game is gonna last 2 or fewer turns,
that sounds like a good guess.
and Lemon Spawn is saying Tracer's gonna pile up the curses. I think I was pretty close to right. I don't. Tracer can get enough to stop it. We'll see. Yeah, I like what Kazumara is doing here. I think if the game goes long, it doesn't favor you. So lower piles a bunch while you got a point lead and hope to sneak something in. This does seem like a good way to punish the Alchemist buy. 'Cause, like Alchemist is planning for the long term. You took a bunch of negative points to get it because the potion and the Alchemist are -6 for the moment. Obviously, once you get multiple Alchemists, that solves the Alchemist problem, and you can trash the potion later. But if there is no later, then Alchemist
Yeah.
is looking pretty bad.
And especially since they only have the one carpenter at this point, and a carpenter might be blockaded again.
Yeah.
They okay.
Now, what is going to be in Kazu's next hand? A blockade and some hostelries. It's not going to be guaranteed that Kazu can pile out. Well, they do have a night watchman, so maybe they can set some stuff up. They'll have villages in hand. Um, like as Tracer, maybe you just don't
Yeah,
play the
Tracer can,
blockades to not make it easy to gain curses. I don't know. We'll see.
Tracer can in principle immediately remodel, but what is it going to do for them? They could gain
Yep.
a second Carpenter with a Slay in hand. They could put it in hand immediately and then play that immediately. That would be 3 points. Apart from that, they could get rid of the potion for 3 more points. But still, is that going to be enough to overcome that
I think
huge
with
points
a
deficit?
good draw here, taking a points lead seems pretty doable. Let's see if they manage it. Where's that council room? This isn't looking like there. That was in the nick of time. This still might not be enough. What's the silver split? Both of them have
1-1.
one silver.
So modeling that into, well, into council room actually scores 6 points at this point.
Yeah, but six ain't enough.
Mm,
This is looking
yeah,
like a win
this
for
looks
Kazu.
lost. Yeah, and that might be the end of the
That's the end of the line.
the end of the line for Team USA in the championships.
Trashed a curse into a sleigh.
Yeah, province is
That
just
ain't
3
gonna do
points,
it.
and that's a win.
Yeah, obviously banking on Kazu to dud, but seeing Kazu's hand, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, it's already in hand, right? Just blockade by 2 curses.
This is another big comeback win from Japan. This one looked way in Tracer's favor. I think the Alchemist was a little bit greedy, and Kazumaru found a line to sneak in a pile out once again.
Yeah, potion, I agree. It's not.
I didn't even think the potion looked so bad at the time that he added it. Um, like Alchemist definitely did not seem like an important card, but it seemed like a fine time to add a potion if you're going to. And then Kazu just started blitzing down the curses. Trash a curse, gain an estate. I suppose that's one way to do it. That's probably not the points maximizing line, but you don't really need to maximize points here. Okay. Well, I don't know if they're going to play the last two out. We'll
Wow.
see. But the match has now been decided. Japan has won. Uh, there's there's room for this match to be a tie. Yeah, it looks like they're going to play out the rest of them. But even if USA ties this one, it'll be a win for Japan in the overall standings. Oh, I know that one. IPSB said, "Congratulations."
And Water Edge won without a single win.
Oh, is Wata the substitute for Japan A?
I think so.
That's how I'm
I
interpreting
didn't.
that. Um,
Yeah,
the way it works is the teams can be more than four players, and if so, you have substitutes who can play on certain weeks. Like USAA had six players.
yeah. Water Edge played twice. Once against Canada B, where they tied AJL 828, and once against Salt Rosa, where Salt Rosa won 3.5 to 2.5.
Oh, I see. They won without a single match win. I was thinking maybe they didn't have a single game win.
Yeah, that would have been a bit sad, but yeah,
Yeah.
even no, but Japan also dominated our group. I played in Team Germany B as
Mhm.
third seed. I had the also a 2-4 against Yuri Kamomi,
Mm.
and this played very well in, in all their in all their games.
Do you have a kingdom? Let's take a
Yes,
look what's
yeah, let's
happening
talk about
here.
this. It does
Po
have Basilicum, And
Poet
for that,
and Mountain Shrine are going to activate Flourishing Trade, which makes Ironworks look a bit better. Once Flourishing Trade is active, Ironworks can gain fives, including duchies. That might be relevant. Trashing is
yeah,
Mountain Shrine, Fishing Village, and Aristocrat or Villages. Guide counters Margrave's attack pretty well. You just call a guide after getting discard attacked and have a fresh hand. Margrave is still going to be good for the draw. Poet can also draw. Poet will be better draw once Flourishing Trade activates, because Poet can then draw itself. Aristocrat does a lot of the
fishing
stuff.
villages. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Fishing villages looked very rather nice to also have buys later on. And
Tracer pitched a ton of estates to open with a Margrave. Kazu had the five, but just went with a Mountain Shrine, which does get you Basilica points. Mountain Shrine costs five, but it costs five debt. So you have two money left over when you buy it, and then you put the money towards paying off the debt, so you still get the 2 points.
yeah, Basilica, I had a traumatic experience in my 5th game in my last match against Canada Bees as draw K-Cab, where for whatever reason I looked at Basilica at the beginning of the game and was like, oh yeah, that's that landmark that lets you have victory points whenever you gain a card in your buy phase that you already have a copy in play, so Colonnade. And
Hmm.
I never looked at it in more detail, and then halfway through the game I realized, why am I in I bought a raise just to trigger that, and then why am I not getting victory points? And at that point it
Daisy.
was too late.
I had Colonnade banned for the longest time. Uh, it's not the worst in the world. I just feel like it brings out the worst in you. You want to spam the same card over and over, and I had a bad habit of doing that, so I banned it to stop myself from getting tempted by it. I had to unban it with Rising Sun coming out, because then there were some legitimately bad landscapes that needed to be on the ban list.
Which one do you have banned? The Divine? Are you a Divine Wind
No, I
hater,
love Divine
or
Wind. Divine Wind is fun. I like it. Like if you like playing Dominion, why would you not like playing two Dominion kingdoms at the same time? Um,
yeah,
the obvious
I
ban is
agree.
Approaching Army, and then I think I have Bureaucracy on the dislike list.
No, Approaching Army, I disagree with. It's harmless. I mean, it adds an attack card, but that attack card
Contradiction
just.
in terms. You just explained the problem.
Oh wow, that's an early
Okay.
resign. But
I wasn't even
I can
following
see
that one.
them.
I'm guessing the early resign was probably motivated a little bit by there's nothing on the line anymore, but I'll trust that Kazi must have been pretty ahead there. Hey, look, speak of the
They
devil,
had
there's Approaching Army.
wait,
um,
my thing is. Just a sec. Okay, I can see the kingdom now. Yeah, I think they in the previous game they got. Wow, I'm just looking at this 12 card kingdom and I'm like mitten. Is that the word?
I
Yes.
didn't. Yeah, 12 whole cards. We got Approaching Army adding an extra card, and Young Witch adding an extra card. I wonder if Approaching Army maybe added Young Witch, which added another card because Young Witch is an attack.
Yeah.
Uh, Looking at this one, there's draw with Den of Sin, and you got actions and trashing and everything else. I'm guessing this is going to play more like Big Money. Bounty Hunter and Kitsune, which will be buffed by Approaching Army, are probably going to get you to hitting 8 very consistently, very quickly. I kind of suspect you click Bounty Hunter and Kitsune a few times and then start buying provinces, and that'll be better than building bigger. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. Yeah, the lack of proper plus buy really um, really disincentivizes anything else. And Kitsune with giving 3 money and accrues later on.
Yeah, buys are a little
It's
bit
rather nice.
limited. An upside of building is you could, play craftsmen and gain duchies alongside of your provinces. Maybe you get a forest gift off of Pixie. The other thing that I think limits the engine a bit is Den of Sin is a good card, but I don't think it's good as the main draw of an engine. Like if you take all 10 Dens of Sin, that's still only essentially like 5 laboratories per turn, which is not a lot of draw in total. And so it's more of a card I think you click based on the circumstances than a card you build your deck around. And I think the path to just hitting 8 consistently looks a lot clearer than the path to hitting 16 or hitting 8 and a bunch of duchies.
Yeah, Forest is the only plus Y, right?
I
Forest.
do believe.
Yeah.
Other way to do multiple province, I suppose, would be like gain a duchy off of your. Wait, I said oh, craftsman. I was thinking of importer. Play a craftsman, gain a duchy, remodel the duchy into a province would be a way to do multiple provinces in a turn. Is this the first time Japan has won? I'm surprised by that. If so, oh, Steph kept winning.
Probably just Den here for Kazu. Or do you like anything else?
I think I agree with Den of Sin. I think you could consider another Kitsune. Or maybe they're going to
Or
banish 2 coppers, which I suppose is a
contemplate?
lot like gaining a Den.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes some sense to me. Unfortunately, I guess they already had 1 copper banish, so it's fine. I was going to say banish shuts off
I
the
was
bounty
thinking
hunter.
the same thing. Yeah.
Um,
But the state is fine, I guess, too. You would rather trash it and draw a card, but even that.
so
Like
here, I think
bounty
Tracer,
hunting the state.
interesting.
Sorry.
Tracer trashed a copper over a hovel. I was thinking you trash the hovel because you want to hit 5, and the 5s are super important. The downside of trashing hovel is you'd rather exile the hovel for 3 money than exile the copper for 0 money. But I guess Tracer thought Pixie was good enough to keep the hovel around.
Ooh, I think I would have just bought a 5 there.
Yeah.
Selling the curse, the -1 point. I don't care about that much.
Looking at this hand, I think Kazu appears to be in the lead. Approaching
Yeah.
army is now active, so we're hitting some pretty big numbers.
And Kazu seems to, yeah, Kazu has 2 kitsunes, 2 tracers, 1, and does have
Craftsman,
like
maybe? I don't know what you gain here. Maybe just a Den
yeah,
of Sin?
craftsman looks fine. Like they will have a ton of money with the kitsunes anyways. Hmm.
I think
Certainly
I'm
not
between,
obvious
like,
what to.
you could just buy Den of Sin, you're probably hitting a province, and then just start clicking province consistently for the rest of the game. You could take a craftsman, in which case you're probably not hitting province, but you might still hit province even between like 3 coin kitsunes and bounty hunter. And then the craftsman also lets you gain a few things while you're scoring. I think I like the craftsman.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I can also see the starting provincing in 1 or 2 turns line.
Yeah. Like certainly you want provinces on the earlier side. This is not equivalent to the what was it, the swap game where it's like be the first to province at all costs. Here there is like some level of a comeback mechanic. And so I think I'm like, okay, taking a craftsman, gaining a few 5s along the way, and then being like a turn slow to provinces. We'll see what Kazu decides. If you're extra greedy, you do like gain an armory, gain a craftsman off the armory, then gain whatever else you want. That I think would signify a deck that's probably planning to build a little bit bigger. They do go with the Craftsman. Yeah, I think that's right. All right. I'm gonna guess Province Pixie for Tracer. Could be Den of
I
Sin
also
Kitsune.
I also like Kitsune Craftsman Pixie.
That sounds good as well, yeah. Academy Engineer. I'm not seeing it. Academy is like infinite villages. It is a very strong source of villagers. This just doesn't seem like a kingdom where you need the villagers all that badly. Once the curse is empty, you can just play the Kitsunes for 2 coins, 2 actions, and that's a village. Okay. Shamrock says, "Oh shoot, game five ended in 5 minutes. A lot of bad draws. I don't even know. Haven't even really looked at how the game was going, and then the resignation happened. I think probably a lot of it was Japan had already clinched the match by game four, and so we weren't thinking quite as hard about game five. I suppose Kazu got better draws, but Tracer decided to throw in the towel early.
Yeah, the Tracer faced a dot hand with Mountain Shrine Margrave and a lot of
Hmm.
their villages bottom, I believe. But yeah, I also agree with Janians that a lot of the factor might have been the loss of the championship prior to that. And with that, unfortunately, I think I will need to run off and
Alrighty,
leave you
I won't
here.
spoil the result for you, so that you can learn when you get back.
I will watch the video later. But it was a lot of fun. Thanks for
Alrighty,
co-commenting.
enjoy your volleyball match.
Thanks, and then see you around. Goodbye.
Peace. Expecting a province here from Tracer, probably. Yeah. And I think I like Kazu's position. They should also be able to hit province here, but they'll be able to keep up on gains while doing so, which should matter in the end game. 2 craftsmen is the total number I would have expected to be gained, but I would have expected one to be in each deck. You've gained another Kitsune. Unfortunately, did not draw those cards in the order that you would want. Hmm. Is this hitting 8? I Yeah, I think this works. Exile a curse, play the goat, trash a curse, and then just don't play the craftsman this turn, and you can buy a province. Maybe if Kazu's feeling greedy, they'll just play the craftsman, gain a denizen, and buy a duchy. Don't love having to come from behind on provinces, but it would be possible here. Like if Kazu's got a bunch of craftsmen, you could gain a number of duchies. All right, Kazu is in a greedy mood. You could also buy an extra Den of Sin now, and then if you want duchies, you can gain them off your craftsman mid-turn. Might be the better order. Is Tracer hitting 8? Quite likely. I think Tracer's spot would look excellent if there was one craftsman in this deck. Although I'm not sure where you would have added it. Perhaps, craftsman would have traded off with something else of greater importance. Alright, yeah, Kazu just goes for the second din. Like the big threat, I think, if you have a craftsman in your deck enter ahead, is maybe you gain a rebuild off of one of the craftsmen and you start trashing province into province. Copper and a Denizen is not really the best draw here for Tracer. Just going to exile a Den to get to 8. Yeah, it seems like Tracer's plan here is just keep hitting 8 for the rest of the game, which might be possible. As a thin deck, you're going to be able to exile the provinces as they come in. Might be worth it. So Kazu's now got a plan to take 3 of the provinces, probably, and then gain a bunch of duchies. Or maybe they go into rebuild to try to keep up on provinces. I think probably the mini duchies plan seems a little bit safer because rebuild is lowering the province pile, whereas duchies are not. So you have longer to accomplish the latter. Bottom card is another craftsman. Maybe this first craftsman just gains a pixie, and then the will-o-wisp can draw that, and then you can gain a duchy off the second craftsman and exile it for money. Ooh, intriguing. Kazu exiles a Den of Sin. I don't think I like that. I mean, unlike Tracer, Kazu can just gain a Den of Sin back with Craftsman, which I expect is what's going to happen here. But you just like exiled and regained a Den for 3 money. I think you probably could have just gotten a duchy into your deck and exiled that for the money instead. I have to look more carefully. I suspect there was a line that gained a duchy, exiled it, and hit a province. Perhaps if that wasn't actually possible, then this line looks better. Tracer does not hit 8 here, unfortunately, which I think means their odds of winning do. Oh, no, they do hit 8. Never mind, we're good. I guess it was they clicked the wrong thing on Kitsune and didn't notice. This hand looks kind of nasty. Should still be fine, I think. You draw 2 cards. You find either the Kitsunes that gets you to 8. Um, the problem is Tracer hasn't lined up Bounty Hunter with Province yet. There really shouldn't be more than one province in the deck at any given time because you buy a province, you exile it each turn. But I think one turn they bottom deck the province, the other turn they bottom deck the Bounty Hunter. Still think it's up in the air who's going to win here. I feel like likely an entire Kazu winning given those craftsmen. So let's say Kazu buys a province here, Tracer buys a province. Kazu maybe takes a bunch of duchies on the next turn. Actually, Kazu's probably not buying province here. Kazu's probably buying a duchy. Exile the goat, play both craftsmen. Getting another din, okay. Nope, not okay. We don't want the din. Duchy bounty hunter? I don't know. Rebuild. Okay. I was thinking this looked like the slightly worse line compared to just gaining more total duchies. But Kazu wants to rebuild the duchies. Alright, Tracer finds none of the Kitsunes. Tragic. Is this 8? Oh! Oh, this is probably game then. Yeah, that was not the draw you needed. They only drew 2 money. Yeah, like Tracer's path to victory, I think, which is buying provinces faster than Kazu could keep up. And this is not faster than Kazu can keep up. I think the case where rebuild would be most likely to arise is if both players went for the craftsman. Like if you're both drawing a bit more and have decks that do a bit more, then you want the ability to take multiple provinces versus that opponent. If one player is just buying provinces one at a time, think I'd rather plan on having more duchies because then I have more turns to work with. So I think Tracer will surely hit province for the rest of the game from here. Unfortunately, I think that is going to be almost certainly too slow now. Poor Kazu bottom deck of the rebuild. Don't think it's going to matter. Gain the last den and a duchy and buy a province, I think. Another rebuild to really threaten. I think all roads lead to Rome here. I probably wouldn't like taking a second rebuild means you're threatening to win the game immediately because even if Tracer doesn't buy a province, you could rebuild two things into province and buy a province. But like Kazu doesn't need the game to end quickly. The longer the game goes, the better it is for Kazumaru, who can take advantage of the craftsman. And so I think probably a duchy for points. And it's hard to say what to do as Tracer. Like your opponent's not going to have too bad of a dud with an 11 card hand. With two provinces, you probably would just buy the penultimate province and hope that they somehow missed. Actually, they have a rebuild on top, so even then you couldn't really count on them missing. I think that's just a loss. Yeah. I think you probably should find room for a craftsman. It gives you a lot more flexibility in the end game. Like if you just have no other gains, then you're stuck only buying the province. That being said, Tracer I think also had some pretty terrible draws in the middle game there. The bounty hunters never hitting province led to a deck that was less consistent than it should have been. Maybe if Tracer kept up on the provinces a turn sooner, this situation would be a bit harder for Kazumaru to navigate. Alrighty, is that a 5-1 victory for Kazumaru? This match was close for a bit, and then Japan decided to close it out in style. Okay, well, congratulations to Japan for winning the World Cup. Congratulations to the U.S. for graciously allowing them to. I think we just won too many times, and it made sense to let Japan win for a change. That's the match.